The hench chef begins by questioning Woojin about what he had done this time. Woojin adopts a more serious tone, looks his boss in the eyes, and presents his dish, a ratatouille. His boss gets irritated by the fact that Woojin used yuzu instead of tomatoes in the ratatouille, but Woojin insists that he believes ratatouille pairs better with yuzu. After that, the chef tries to calm himself by taking a deep breath. He then tells Woojin to stop making strange things in the kitchen and go back to chopping vegetables, as his knife skills are unparalleled. He finishes by telling Woojin to try to do better next time. Right after, he asks who will be next for evaluation. But suddenly, one of the employees starts yelling at the evaluator, calling him an insolent fool. He says that the evaluator should not dare to speak to the celestial demon in such a way and should bow his head and beg for forgiveness. Woojin reflects that in his past, his servants would intervene like this, and that his past culinary skills have no use in this world. It is revealed that in Woojin's past life, he was the celestial demon king who had conquered multiple planes. However, Woojin says that conquering the central plains was never his true interest. Woojin had prepared a dish of fried spicy peppers. He made the dish as a way to thank the servant, revealing that he conquered the plains because they were interfering with his dream. The elders became uneasy at the sight of yet another bizarre dish from the celestial demon. Then it was revealed that Woojin's dream was to become the greatest chef in the Central Plains. Woojin was born in 2011, shortly after his parents died in a gate accident. The protagonist was taken in by his friend's parents, who, despite having their own child, treated him as part of the family. Not long after, his adoptive father also died in an accident related to the gates. This event drastically affected Woojin at the time, leading him to recall memories of his past life. In the kitchen, Woojin reflected that something was wrong. He remembered that he had finally escaped the world of martial arts to dedicate himself to cooking. Woojin reflected that now he finally had his chance as he prepared another dish. But many people in this world did not like Woojin's food. Woojin was confused as he recalled that the elders of his past life adored his cooking. One of them even fainted. Now the protagonist was cooking sausages with vegetables. His adopted brother, Shano, arrives back home. Shano notices a different smell upon entering. Then, Shano sees Woojin savoring the food he had just finished cooking. Suspicious, he asks, "Was it you who made this dish?" Woojin responds, "Yes, I did. Would you like to take a bite?" Still hesitant, Shano decides to take a bite, thinking that Woojin might have improved in cooking. Shano was starving at the time, so he figured anything would taste good, even Woojin's food. But as soon as he puts it in his mouth, he spits everything out. He thinks if I had chewed even once, I would have died. He quickly runs to drink water, believing that the food was made with spoiled vegetables. Shano looks to the side, alarmed. He notices a pack of cherries thrown on the table. Then he asks, "Did you use cherries in the dish?" Woojin explains, "I used cherries instead of sugar because they add a tart and refreshing flavor that sugar doesn't provide." Shano nods, understanding. "I'm going to take a shower. You finish eating the rest of the food." Woojin reflects that it has been almost a year since his reincarnation. And since then, he has dedicated his life to cooking, yet his food is disapproved of by the people of this land. He begins thinking of ways to improve his cooking so that they will accept his food. But when he tastes his meal again, he truly finds it delicious. While showering, Sino is frustrated that Woojin used cherries in that dish, thinking that he must be crazy. He questions how it could taste so awful and wonders why Woojin insists on cooking like this. A bit thoughtful, he reflects that Woojin's true talent is not in cooking. He recalls the night their parents were killed by a monster. Woojin had effortlessly defeated it. He realizes that Woojin must have awakened that day along with him. But Woojin was incomparably stronger than Sino. Sino comes to the conclusion that Woojin has reached S rank. He thinks that if Woojin became a hunter, he would become a legend. They could hunt together to avenge their father. Suddenly, a mysterious girl appears. Describing Woojin's dish, she says, "This dish is the second most delicious thing I have ever seen." Woojin is surprised that it is not the first. The girl continues describing it. "It was a simple dish of meat with vegetables and some kind of sauce," she says. "The secret to elevating the dish to that level should be in the sauce." Woojin reflects that she understands cooking, and the girl asks if she can know the name of the dish. Wood responds, "The name of the dish is cherry soya." The girl concludes what defines the dish's flavor is either the cherry or the soy. As the girl eats, Woojin asks, "Who are you?" The girl reveals, "I am the secret spirit of culinary arts. Spirits make contracts with humans to improve their skills. I am a resident of the cooking Grimoire dungeon." She continues, "I was born into that world to clarify that the world's cuisine was inferior and that people's palates were ignorant. I possess countless recipes that do not exist in that world. You could learn them all and complete the ultimate flavor, one that no one has discovered yet." The spirit says, I exist solely to achieve the final flavor. She adds, I have met many chefs, but none were skilled enough to make a contract with. I thought that way until this very moment. Still confused, the protagonist asks, what are you trying to say? The spirit argues, after tasting your dish, I realize you are capable of completing the supreme dish. And then she asks Woojin if they would form a contract. But suddenly, the protagonist realizes that the spirit was tied to some item that Shinho had looted, meaning the spirit should belong to Shinho. However, the spirit girl argues that she has not made a contract with anyone yet. Woojin then says that the offer sounds good to him, but there is a catch. Suddenly, a light from the sky illuminates the place, and thus, the contract was made. A smart panel appears in the protagonist's vision, stating that he has become the dungeon chef class. The protagonist is confused by so much information being thrown at him so quickly. The spirit girl says that they finally have a contract and that he can check the journal for more information. Woojin notices that the program states he is level 1 and has no access to the recipes yet, which leaves him outraged, as he was the one who mastered the martial arts of the world. The girl panics, explaining to the protagonist that the level displayed there was not his true level and did not mean he was inexperienced. In reality, it showed the level of his culinary grimoire and his proficiency. The spirit says that Woojin can level up through missions and recipes from the grimoire, but he cannot access them because he is not a hunter. The girl informs him that the ingredients for the dishes are found in dungeons, but he does not have permission to access them. Woojin understands the situation and asks, will I gain access to the recipes if I become a hunter? The spirit girl confirms, saying once you pass the tutorial tower and become a hunter, you will gain access to the Grimoire's missions and recipes. Woojin remembers that his brother Shinho had said the tutorial tower opens every 3 months. He looks at his smartphone and seems to understand something. Woojin's boss thinks he might have been a bit harsh on him, but concludes that he had to say what he did. Reflecting on Woojin, the boss notes that he is perfect in everything in the kitchen except for the ingredients he uses. He single-handedly handles the workload of 3 people. A message from Woojin arrives on the boss's phone. He assumes the contact must be about their confrontation the previous day and feels bad. However, the message states that Woojin is resigning from his job in the kitchen. Mysterious towers had appeared worldwide after the gate incident, and it was discovered that those who completed the towers could use mana. The interiors of the towers change shape every time someone enters, and numerous trials suddenly begin. Only those who defeat the monsters and traps within the towers can use mana. Despite the dangerous conditions, the number of tower challengers continues to grow, attracting those blinded by wealth and fame, and others who spend fortunes in the tutorial towers. The starting point of the towers is filled with desires and pleas. A hunter is caught off guard as a green slime attacks him. He swiftly dodges the slime's attack, then advances, striking the monster's core. With that, the slime explodes, defeated. After much effort, the slime drops only slime fluids in its core. The hunter is furious. He worked so hard to kill 4 slimes and not a single one dropped a weapon. Still frustrated, the hunter mutters, all I ever get is useless slime fluid. I already spent 20 million just on the tutorial tower. He lies on the ground, saying, I need to rest for an hour to recharge my strength. Still on the ground, he thinks that given all the hard work he has done so far, he actually deserves to rest for 2 hours. Surprised, he notices that more people have arrived at the tower. He glanced at the newcomers with a puzzled expression, commenting on how unusual they looked, especially since they entered the tower without even basic gear like leather armor. The ones who had entered were Won, the protagonist of the story, and his culinary spirit companion. Woojin noticed he had been teleported in an instant and remarked, this method is far more efficient than anything used back in the Central Plains. The spirit girl added, your outfit really stands out compared to everyone else. The protagonist reflected on the fact that it had been 6 months since he regained his memories. He believed he had adjusted fairly well to this world's society. Woojin continued glancing around, taking in the varied clothing and equipment worn by the other hunters. Suddenly, one of the nearby hunters called out a warning, telling Win that a monster was approaching and advising him to act quickly before someone else took the opportunity. A fast-moving slime rushed toward the protagonist, but he showed no concern. The hunter shouted again, watch out. With a single strike, Won easily dispatched the slime. He then muttered to himself, I probably should have brought some armor, realizing he'd need to stay cautious. This journey was far from over. At that moment, a Grimoire screen appeared before him, displaying a message. Ingredients can be registered in the Grimoire. Would you like to register them, Woojin? Woojin is confused by what he just read and assumes that the ingredients in question must be from the slime he just eliminated. Suddenly, 3 hunters shout, calling Woojin a bastard and intimidating him, warning him not to loot the slime's items. But Woojin is so distracted by his new culinary system that he does not even hear them speaking. Two other men tell the protagonist not to act tough, claiming that they have faced much harder battles. The spirit girl becomes nervous, saying that they are attracting unwanted attention and telling Woojin to drop the slime's items. Woojin realizes the situation is getting awkward and picks up a sword that was lying on the ground. As he readies his stance, Woojin reflects that before he arrived in the Central Plains, that place was a mess. In a fighting position, he states, "This will be a good opportunity for me to climb the tower." The three hunters immediately take their stances and remain alert. One of them comments, "Looks like Woojin wants to fight." He continues, "If we get injured, we can receive treatment outside, but our chances of climbing the tower will decrease." One of the hunters suggests retreating since they are unarmed, but their leader disagrees and decides to charge at Woojin. They tell Woojin that just because he has a sword, it doesn't make him special. He is still surrounded by all three of them. The protagonist remains unfazed in front of the hunters. Woojin thinks that, at the very least, these guys understand military combat strategy. Suddenly, one of the hunters attacks Woojin from behind with a wooden club, but with just one strike from his sword's hilt, Woojin knocks him down and disarms him. Frustrated, another hunter lunges at Woojin. Without much effort, Woojin evades the attack. The protagonist then uses the hunter's own weapon against him, sending him flying. Terrified, the last hunter freezes as Woojin approaches him. Woojin hurls a wooden club at the hunter, ending the fight with a single blow. The spirit girl is astonished by the protagonist's movements. Woojin remarks, "If we were in the Central Plains, I would have broken their necks on the spot." With that, he continues on, reflecting that he must follow the laws of this world. Moving forward, Woojin asks the girl, "Hit only I see the Grimoire screen." The girl replies, "All contractors can see each other's grimoires." Woojin asks, "Can I register ingredients in the grimoire?" The girl responds, "Yes, you can." Even if he is not an official hunter, without hesitation, Woojin quickly clicks yes on the open pop-up. The protagonist is surprised by the screen that appears, stating that the ingredient slime fluid has been registered. He assumes that all the items he had previously looted were also registered there, so he decides to check them one by one. He arrives at a screen showing the name of a recipe called slime pudding along with its ingredients, but he does not have permission to view it. The girl explains once again that he cannot see the recipe yet. She frantically continues, insisting that it is not the Grimoire's fault. It is because he is not yet a hunter. The girl recalls that the Grimoire has passed through many ignorant people who never understood its true value. She declares that in thousands of years, no one like Woojin has ever been ready for the Grimoire. She decides that she cannot let him go. Before the protagonist could finish his sentence, the girl screams into his ear, saying that she accepts everything except canceling the contract. Woojin is confused as the girl cries, begging him not to cancel the contract. The protagonist explains that he was only asking if he could create a new dish that wasn't in the recipe. Woojin says that he will create a new dish and that he sees no sense in blindly following someone else's method. Still terrified, the girl asks, "Is that really what you meant? You're not planning to cancel the contract, are you?" Woojin responds, "I never even considered it." The girl thought Woojin was upset about not having access, but he tells her, "I just am not used to it." No complaints. The girl says, "I've seen many people over the years, but you're the first to say you'll cook without a recipe." Moving forward, the protagonist says, "I'll only know by trying." Woojin looks back, sensing a presence. He concludes, "Someone's following us," and keeps moving forward. In the shadows, the man pursuing them seems to have noticed something. He's surprised to see a Grimoire spirit and wonders. What's a contractor doing in a tutorial tower? The protagonist opens a jar of slime fluid and dips his finger into it. Suddenly, he puts his finger in his mouth, tasting the slime. The girl yells, "Don't eat that." Panicking, she adds, "Slimes have poison, not fatal, but enough to cause terrible stomach pain." Woojin ignores her and keeps chewing. The protagonist says, "I thought it would have a sweet taste and become cloying quickly, but instead, it is bitter with a well-balanced, spicy flavor." The girl wonders, how is he fine after eating something poisonous? Woojin remarks, "It would be great for desserts or seasoning meat." Still shocked, the girl says, "As long as you aren't in pain, it's fine." Then she asks, "What dish do you plan to make?" Woojin reflects, slime fluid has fast-acting poison. So the protagonist decides to apply yang energy to his hands to remove the poison from the ingredient. Then he releases yin energy to absorb the heat. And so, the slime ingredient solidifies. The protagonist decides to taste a bit of what he has made. With that, Woojin decides what he will cook and reveals, "I'll make a yang gang." As several slimes approach them, Woojin says, "I'll eat plenty of ingredients." Later in the same corridor, the man who had been pursuing them passes by. He says, "Something's wrong. There are too many weapons dropped on the ground." He picks up one of the spears and notes, "Its condition is poor, but it's still a good weapon." The man reflects the protagonist and the spirit girl left behind all that equipment and only took the slime drops. He concludes, given the number of weapons scattered around, they must have only been interested in the items dropped by the slime. But even so, he does not understand why. He keeps thinking that slime drops are poisonous, and there would be only one reason to collect them in the tutorial tower. He assumes that the tutorial tower is hiding some unknown piece of the puzzle. The man panics, saying the future has already changed. He begins running in search of Woojin, reflecting that this Grimoire contractor is a complete stranger. He should have acted faster. After running for so long, he finally reaches a room. Still panting, he spots Woojin in his Grimoire spirit. Woojin notices the man has entered and assumes that he was the one following him. As the two stare at each other, Woojin seems to already understand the situation. He assumes that the man is after his Grimoire spirit. The protagonist is curious about how the spirit is appearing before this man. The mysterious man continues to stare at Woojin with a suspicious gaze. He concludes that Woojin must have eliminated all the slimes in the room, given the items scattered across the floor. He says, I don't know which Grimoire spirit is in your possession, but your relaxed attitude makes sense. I see no logic in a low-level hunter having a legendary Grimoire spirit with him, and that only a certain group of people would be capable of giving a Grimoire to a beginner hunter. The man assumes that Woojin is acting with that particular group and senses Woojin's aura from afar. Then the man decides to surrender, saying that he is only being cautious because someone appeared out of nowhere. He continues, I don't want to fight, but why do I not recognize you? He pauses, then adds, you're extraordinary. You could ruin my plans. Now the man has the goal of discovering why the protagonist is collecting slime items. Woojin relaxes and says, silence among the people of the tower is prohibited, but this rule is very superficial. Suddenly, the protagonist begins walking toward the mysterious man. This causes the man to go on high alert, unsure of what Woojin intends to do. He prepares for combat, saying, I'm certain you're with that particular group. But as Woojin gets closer to the man, he simply greets him and states his name. The mysterious man is surprised, seeing that Woojin has adopted a friendly attitude. The two exchange greetings and the man introduces himself, I'm Cheon Woojin. Acting oblivious, the man asks, Woojin, do you see what happened earlier? The man explains that he found it strange to see slime equipment scattered throughout the labyrinth. He continues, saying that people normally hunt slimes in the tutorial for their equipment drops. So he found it odd that someone would eliminate slimes without collecting the items. Woojin easily admits that he was the one who defeated all the slimes. The man is surprised that Woojin confessed so readily and begins reconsidering whether he is really part of the group he suspected. He states that the group in question is extremely secretive about their identities and would not act so openly. So, you're not with that group? The man asks, his tone questioning. Then what is your objective? Still cautious, the man tells Woojin, your feat were impressive. He adds that they both have things to do and that he will continue on his way. The man reflects that Woojin is definitely not with the people he was expecting, but it is still strange that he is collecting slime items. Cheon Woojin considers that the hidden piece of the tutorial tower will be revealed in 20 years and wonders if Woojin also knows about it. He begins to suspect that he might know Woojin's origin. 30 years into the future, the world was destroyed after the world's destruction. Cheon Woojin received a miracle called regression. He was able to return to the world 30 years in the past thanks to the power he received. But he does not remember anyone named Woojin. Since Woojin is not with the group, he initially suspects something. He wonders if Woojin also received the same miracle of regression. However, Cheon Woojin quickly dismisses the idea. It's impossible, he says, his tone firm, and a pointless thought. He departs with a serious expression. I need to focus on my own goals. If I lose the hidden piece, my plans for growth will collapse. Woojin remains in the room, watching Cheon Woojin leave. He remarks, he's very cunning. He reflects that Cheon Woojin kept his distance until they shook hands. He even concealed his reaction when he saw the Grimoire spirit. As the distance between them grows, Woojin ponders. Cheon Woojin might be someone like me. Many slimes have been eliminated during Woojin's time in the tower. He had finally gathered enough ingredients for his recipe. After clearing the entire room, he states, the level of cleanliness is good enough. Now he decides he's ready to cook and tells the spirit girl. But she looks confused by Woojin's statement. He then asks, do you have a pot? Yet the girl still appears puzzled. He explains that he cannot cook with his bare hands and asks Sif, as the spirit of the culinary Grimoire, if she knows a way to cook inside the tower. Suddenly, the girl becomes excited. She remembers something important and begins casting a spell. Out of nowhere, she summons a pot, proudly stating, I can summon all the necessary cooking tools at any time. Woojin says, I will also need a spatula and a square mold. It would be great if the spatula were made of silicone. Now the protagonist is ready to start cooking. He declares, I will make a dish called yoken. It's the best way to utilize the slime items I collected in the tower. The slime core is glowing too brightly. Woojin plans to use it differently due to its texture. He explains, as long as the inner part does not mix with the slime fluid, I can use it to create patterns. As he cuts the slime core, he notes that it has a rubbery texture. He decides to slice it separately and use it like tapioca. He then decides to boil all the slime fluid to remove toxins. Afterward, he pours the slime fluid into the mold. All the edges of the fluid dry, he adds the sliced slime core into the mold. He states that the melted part inside the pot is the key. Then he says that if the slime fluid cools down enough, it can be used as a broth. Afterward, he pours the liquid over the mold that already contains the other ingredients. Now, Woon starts stirring with a spatula to create patterns in the dish. He explains that the patterns will change the texture and taste, keeping it interesting. Then, he uses a freezing technique to cool the dish. After that, he rotates the mold to remove the yoken. And with that, he completes his new dish called Slime Yoken. Both the girl and Woojin are very satisfied with the result. The excited spirit girl urges Woojin to cut a piece quickly. Suddenly, a message from the culinary system appears stating that a new recipe has been added. The two look at the message, surprised, as the information about the slime yoken made by Woon is being processed. Then it is revealed that Woojin's dish is ranked F, and he is in disbelief at the result, while the girl tells him to check until the end. The dish's quality rating had not yet been revealed. Woojin then asks if the dish's quality is more important than its ranking, and the girl replies that it is. Suddenly, a message appears stating that Woojin has leveled up. Many notification windows pop up for Woojin, but one catches his attention the most, the one that states his dish has an A-level quality rating. Another notification appears saying that a recipe has been unlocked based on the objectives achieved. The girl congratulates Woojin, saying an A-level quality rating is truly remarkable. Woojin is still skeptical that his dish turned out good despite its F-rank classification. The girl reminds him that he asked earlier about quality and overall ranking and says, "I'll explain while we eat." Woojin replies, "I don't mind," and begins to cut a piece of the food. The girl quickly takes a bite of the slime yoken. The girl loves the protagonist's food, saying, "It's unbelievably delicious. Making the contract was the best decision I ever made." She then begins explaining the quality rating represents how delicious the food is. An A-rank classification means it's truly a high-level gourmet dish. As for the overall ranking, she continues, it represents the difficulty of preparing the dish. Since slime yoken has a simple preparation process, it resulted in a lower rank. She finishes, the higher the quality and rank. The more points Woojin can earn, the more he can gain by completing achievements. Woojin tastes his dish and analyzes it. It has a bitter and spicy flavor that merges with a sweet taste, he says, and the texture is pleasant to eat. The girl tells Woojin, the recipe book has been activated. Recipes are the heart of the dungeon's culinary growth. She continues, you can buy recipes with points. There are all kinds of recipes for every type of delicacy. Woojin observes his panel, noting that dishes have been unlocked. The girl notices that Woojin doesn't seem impressed, but concludes, it's because you made the dish yourself. Woojin questions, do I have enough points to buy all the recipes? The girl replies, you've earned many points, but there's a catch. She explains, normally, you need to complete missions to unlock recipes. You start with simple dishes and gradually improve your skills. Woojin realizes he ignored the conventional training method. The girl confirms it. The missions unlock recipes, she explains, and better dishes, help you level up faster, allowing access to even better recipes. She then states that in all the thousands of years, no one had ever created a high-level recipe and reached level 4 in this way. Woojin understands that he leveled up and earned points by creating a recipe without completing missions, and the girl confirms, telling him that he can continue creating recipes. Woojin remembers that only hunters receive missions from the groom and thinks about clearing the area quickly to complete the tower. But then he recalls something. He remembers that the dungeon could be a great place to obtain unknown ingredients and that it would be a shame to leave right away. With that in mind, he decides that he will make more dishes, remembering that the tower will close in 2 weeks. Woojin reaches the second floor of the tower and gets caught in an arrow trap. Although it is not a major challenge, he notices that many things have changed on this floor. He notes that the traps have become more difficult and that the slimes have gained unique characteristics, making them harder to deal with. Those who wandered freely on the first floor must now focus more on surviving on the second floor. But this was not a great difficulty for Woojin. After all, he is someone who follows his own path. Woojin had already finished his battles and was now preparing another dish. He had made a red slime jelly with a B-level quality rating. As the girl enjoyed the jelly, she praised it, saying it was a brilliant idea that broke stereotypes. Woojin, however, remarked that he had failed again. The girl disagreed, asking what part of that wonderful dish was bad. She added that Woojin had already made many dishes in the past 10 days. The Grimoire has leveled up to level 3, and you gain 15 more points. But Woothen remained despondent. It's due to my own lack of competence, he muttered. He continued, the reason my rating doesn't increase is the limitation of ingredients. I've been searching for ingredients across 2 floors for 10 days now. Woojin recalled that the first floor only had green slimes, while the second had slimes of various attributes. But even so, relying solely on slimes felt very limiting. He grumbled, if I just had a little chocolate, my dish would have been perfect. The spirit girl, who had been listening intently, seemed uneasy. She finally spoke, Woojin, you have more talent than any chef I've ever seen. She paused before continuing, but you need fundamental knowledge to achieve good results. Passion for creating new dishes should be the true virtue of a chef. That Woojin has talent but lacks knowledge about the Grimoire, she concluded. It's more important for Woojin to work on his foundations by making existing recipes rather than creating new ones. Woojin reflected on what the girl had said. He realized she was right. He decided to start from step 1 and asked, what should we do next? He found a dish called King Slime Ice Cream and was surprised by the name. Curious, he became interested and decided to try making it. He checked its ingredients and thought, I haven't seen any monster resembling a king slime in this tower. He wondered if he should leave the tower, but before he could act, it was revealed that the king slime was on the 3rd floor of the tower. He celebrated, realizing he had already discovered the entrance to the 3rd floor. Things were going well. Woojin and the spirit girl then began heading toward the 3rd floor, with their target being the king slime. It had been 10 days since Woojin entered the portal in the city of Su, where the portal was located. Reporters had surrounded the area. That day was when those who completed the 3rd floor would emerge from the portal. 2 citizens watching the scene commented, those coming out today have already been claimed by guilds. We're just waiting for a guild to fail. They wonder who will exit the portal first, and suddenly someone steps out. The person emerging is Baka, the first daughter of the leader of the Chinate Guild. Many reporters become frantic, eager to interview the remarkable rookie, asking if she will join her father's guild. She arrogantly states, I will refuse any interview that was not scheduled in advance and demands that they step aside. One of the observing men says, this is unfair, while the other asks, why? The same man explains, it's unfair because she is beautiful, has wealthy relatives, and is also talented, and tells them to keep an eye out for someone they can recruit. One of them argues, no one who reached the 3rd floor of the tower would join a small guild like ours, but the other counters, there are always exceptions. The man with glasses complains, we have to wait another 4 days since the best talents exit on the 10th day, while the 13th is our last chance to find someone promising. He adds, those who leave on the 14th day are just the quitters and the useless ones, so we must wait for them. Inside the tower, Woojin is still fighting slimes. Woojin comments, the structure of the 3rd floor is very different from the 1st and 2nd floors. He notes that while the 1st and 2nd floors were labyrinths, the 3rd is divided into separate rooms. Suddenly, he spots an entrance unlike any he has seen before and assumes it must be a special room. Woojin begins walking toward the unfamiliar door, and as he steps through it, he finds himself in a forest filled with trees and vegetation. He is amazed to see a forest inside the tower. The spirit girl wonders, have we left the tower and gone outside? But she is not sure. Woojin states it doesn't seem to be the outside world as he spots slimes ahead. Further in, he sees an altar dedicated to a slime. Suddenly, his culinary system beeps, announcing special ingredient detected. Unlocking recipe requires 20 points. Now, Woojin is certain that the king's slime is there and confirms the mission. This system has even more convenient features than I initially thought, he remarks. Woojin senses a presence approaching from behind. Standing there is Jun, who has just arrived. Jun comments, it took me longer than I wanted to get here. He still suspects that Woojin came alone for the unknown hidden in peace. Woojin greets him with a smile, saying that Sion-jan has reached the 3rd floor. Sion-jan replies that the tutorial tower can only be completed once. He wanted to go all the way to the end and adds that Woojin is impressive for having made it this far as well. Woo says that there is something in this room he needs to secure, and at that moment, Jun is certain that he was right. Sun-jun believes that Woojin is also after the unknown peace. He says that he is exhausted from the entire journey and needs to rest for a bit, but his true intention is to observe Woojin. The spirit girl asks Woojin if he is going to summon the Slime King right now. He replies that he has too few ingredients and needs to hunt more slimes. Seavan-jun, who is watching, realizes that Woojin is hunting more slimes in order to summon the Slime King. The system displays that Woojin will need 200 slime fluids and 200 slime cores to summon the king. With only 4 days left before the tower closes, Seon-jun decides to monitor Woojin and then monopolize the boss when the time comes. On the 12th day since entering the portal, Woojin is hunting slimes. Woojin has no difficulty eliminating the slimes and manages to collect a lot of items, but Jun is lurking, observing Woojin's every move. Woojin continues to eliminate every slime he encounters in the forest while still being watched. The process repeats, and soon the 13th day arrives. On the 14th day, Jun reflects that the tower will close tomorrow. He remembers that this is his last chance to obtain the unknown piece in the tutorial tower, and that he cannot afford to wait another 3 months for the portal to open again. Jun notices that Woojin continues collecting slime items and assumes that he already knows the conditions to summon the Slime King. He thinks that Woojin is stalling before summoning the boss while he keeps watching him. Noticing that Woojin has been eating toxic substances, he speculates that the Grimoire has an ability that makes monsters edible. He thinks that this would be very useful for survival in dungeons. But he quickly dismisses these thoughts as useless and tries to find a way to hunt the boss without Woojin noticing. Jun had observed that in the last 4 days, Woojin would leave the area for 30 minutes to 2 hours. He notes that Woojin's return is unpredictable, like a gamble, but there is no other choice. With this in mind, he wonders if he will be able to defeat the boss and obtain the unknown piece in just 30 minutes. He realizes that hesitation leads to missed opportunities and decides to summon the boss at the next available chance now that he has all the necessary materials. As soon as Woojin leaves the area, Jun moves in to summon the boss. Standing before the altar, he places all the required slime items onto it. He waits anxiously for the boss's summoning, still feeling easy. Suddenly, a light from the sky illuminates the entire altar. In an instant, the Slime King appears, a black-colored slime wearing a crown. It makes its first attack by bouncing off the ground, destroying the entire surrounding area. The dust thrown into the air disorients Jun. At that moment, the Slime King launches its first attack directly at Cheon Woojin, who was walking elsewhere, suddenly stops, and the spirit girl finds it strange. With a serious expression, he says that he needs to return to the altar immediately. The battle is already intense, and the Slime King attempts to strike Jun, but he easily dodges the attack. Jun prepares to counterattack and charges forward, striking the slime with his spear. With this attack, he pierces a hole through the slime's chest, and the monster seems to have felt some pain. Jun then thinks that his attack is working. He reflects that it has been half a year since he returned from the future and affirms that knowing the future alone is not enough. Suddenly, the Slime King enters a state of rage. Jen thinks about how his meticulous preparations prevented the destruction of the world, and as the slime attacks, he easily dodges. Then, in a swift motion, he leaps onto the slime, declaring that he will not rest for even a single day. In the blink of an eye, Jun is soaring above the slime, ready to drive his spear into it using mana. He envelops his spear in his aura and launches a powerful attack, striking the slime from above. After attacking, he thinks again about how his strikes are significantly affecting the boss. Before the slime can retaliate, he retreats to create distance. He reflects that his combat ability is far superior to what it was in his past. Still in battle, Jun says at this rate, he will be able to collect the unknown piece while dodging the slime's attacks. Meanwhile, Woojin has already arrived at the scene and is watching Jun, commenting that he's not doing too bad. He observes that Jun is not resisting the overwhelming power of the Slime King. Instead, he's letting it flow while adding his own strength. Woojin notices that Jun appears to be around his age, but his skills do not match his supposed years. Woojin observes an energy radiating from the tip of Jun's spear. The energy is weak, but does not seem to be coming from the spirits. Woojin realizes that Jun's abilities exceed his internal energy and thinks that if he were his disciple, he would become much stronger. The spirit girl tells Woojin that this is the perfect chance for them to hunt the Slime King, but Woojin immediately reprimands her, saying that it would not be appropriate. He recalls how in the past he was furious when someone stole his dungeon boss kill. The people he encountered earlier in the tower were just like Shiano. Woojin states that it is only courtesy not to interfere while Jun defeats the boss, as the battle between Jun and the Slime King continues to intensify. Jun is struggling in the battle and admits that, even with his desperate training, it is still difficult to handle this alone. He notices that his mana is almost completely drained. As he is about to be struck by the slime, he reflects that this might be his last chance. He dodges the attack by sliding underneath and thinks, if I pierce the slime now, I might be able to defeat it. Finally lay my hands on the unknown piece I've been desperately seeking. But something feels off when he lands his attack. As the slime collapses onto the ground, he suddenly sees Woojin standing there once again. He is in disbelief, saying, "This is impossible." Jun mutters that the pattern Woojin had shown him over the past 4 days did not work today. The moment he gets distracted, the Slime King lands a devastating blow, sending Jun flying. He crashes into the trunk of a tree, Lying on the ground, Cyan Jan groans, saying, "I missed my attack because I paid attention to Woojin." He states that his wound is too severe for him to get up again. Frustrated, he admits that despite everything, he is still just pathetic, a failure. He laughs clearly. Thinking back, he realized how naive it had been to believe he could change the future so easily. He reflected on his overconfidence. Just because he had returned to the past, he thought everything could be rewritten. In that painful future, it seemed Songjun had lost someone truly important. Yet in the present, Songjun had not given up. Clenching his teeth, he forced himself to rise. Struggling to his feet, he declared, "It doesn't matter if I've been arrogant or if I've failed before. If I keep thinking that way, nothing will ever change." He remembered how many times he had come close to giving up, how deeply he regretted those moments. But now he understood. If he had pushed forward with just a little more resolve, things might have turned out differently. With renewed determination, he promised himself, "I won't make the same mistakes again." His energy surged. Songjun rose with fierce purpose, ready to give everything he had to defeat the enemy. "I can't afford to give up," he told himself. Channeling power to the tip of his spear, he said with conviction, "If I fall here, then the future truly won't change. I will defeat the Slime King, no matter what." He charged forward to strike, but just before impact, a sharp pain tore through his body. His attack faltered as he staggered, coughing hard. "My body, it's not keeping up," he muttered, trying to steady himself. With the slime about to attack him again, he thinks that this is the end. But just before everything is over, he sees a streak of light slicing through the Slime King. He does not fully understand what is happening, and then he loses consciousness. Woojin had saved Jan at the last second. A notification window appears before Woojin, announcing that the Slime King has been defeated. He receives the items, Slime King Core and Slime King Fluid. The Spirit Girl is astonished that Woojin defeated the boss with a single strike and says, "This level of skill was expected from you." As he looks down at Jan on the ground, Woojin calls him a disgrace. Woojin comments that when Seongjun noticed him on the battlefield, his focus wavered, leading him to take a heavy blow and panic. Woojin remarks that it was reckless to extract energy while his body was already injured, and because of that, he put himself in a terrible state. But even in that condition, he still had the ability to escape. Woojin then concludes that Seongjun was after the Slime King's cue. Knowing that Seongjun can hear him, Woojin states, "If I had not intervened, you would have died." Then Woojin declares that he will take the cue as compensation for saving him. After defeating the Slime King, Woojin admits that he is truly curious about the taste of the Slime King. As soon as he takes a bite of the slime, he is shocked by the flavor. He remarks that despite its intense sourness, it has a sweet taste and a smooth texture, making it truly delicious, just like durian, the celestial fruit. After tasting the slime, he says that it wasn't a boss for nothing, that he couldn't resist, and that he had to cook. At that moment, he starts organizing his thoughts and deciding what to do. Looking at the recipe, he expects something special since it involves an ingredient from the Slime King, but he finds the methods too ordinary and feels like something is missing. The Spirit Girl quickly assures him that there is nothing wrong with the recipe. After hearing that, Woojin says that if she insists, he will follow the recipe as instructed. First, he begins by boiling the slime fluid to add a sweet flavor. Then he freezes the slime cubes to crush them into powder. Afterward, he envelops the slime cube using a technique called Black Abyss. Once surrounded by this dark aura, the cube is completely destroyed within it. Finally grinding it down, Wooling reflects that this martial art was originally created for this purpose. However, on the central plains, it had harmed many people. After that, he adds the ground cubes to the original fluid. Then he starts mixing everything with a spatula. He notices that the viscosity is remarkable, enhanced when he added the ground fluid, making the result fascinating. He states, according to the recipe, this applies to all slimes. He realizes that this wasn't the way he had previously melted the cubes and reflects that the shelf life of ingredients varies greatly depending on the cooking method. He finds all of this interesting and finishes the dish. Thus, the Slime King ice cream is complete. His system identifies it as an A+ ranked dish with A-level quality. Woin's system notifies him that he has gained experience, unlocked many achievements, and leveled up significantly. After finishing the dish, he declares, "It's complete. We should taste it." The Spirit Girl agrees. Just as they are about to taste the ice cream, they hear a groan. Sang-jun had woken up from his sleep. Upon waking, he asks, "How long was I unconscious?" Sin-jan reflects that his mana has not fully recovered yet, and that he got up much earlier than expected. He says that his whole body feels like it's on fire. He notices that some of his ribs are broken, but he can still move. He sees Woojin in front of him, doing something curious. Sin-jan affirms that he wasn't mistaken. He recalls, Woojin defeated the Slime King before he passed out. He notices that Woojin is holding something in his hands. It's the unknown piece. Jan admits that he was too careless, and so Woojin obtained the unknown piece from the tutorial tower, the piece that appears only once and will not appear again. Jan laments the failure of his plans. He considers hiding the piece, even thinking about ambushing Woojin while he's occupied with the slime. He reflects on the opportunities lost because of Woojin, but then he decides that there's no point in dwelling on it. He calms himself, remembering that not everything is lost. He concludes that Woojin won't share the unknown piece, so he will have to take it by force. At that moment, he gathers his strength and tries to stand up to seize the unknown piece. But before he can do anything, Woojin offers him a taste of the ice cream. Jan is perplexed and remains silent. Truly confused by the situation, Woojin tells him, "You should have some as well. You must be very exhausted." Jan thanks him and wonders why Woojin would be sharing with him. He thinks this is a golden opportunity and decides to take advantage of it. He doesn't understand why Woojin is giving him this, but he assumes it must be fine as long as they don't kill each other in a tutorial tower. As soon as he takes a bite of the ice cream, it feels like his mind explodes. He questions whether Woojin is truly a culinary groom or a contractor, wondering what kind of hellish flavor this is. He asks himself if this is really edible, if this is actually food. He truly does not understand, saying that the Grimoire spirit isn't human, so it makes sense. But this guy is human. How is he able to eat this? Yet he keeps eating, deciding that since this is the unknown piece, he must consume it for the sake of future peace. He takes another spoonful of the ice cream, telling himself to endure it and push through. As soon as he swallows, a system window opens for him. The system states that by consuming the Slime King ice cream, he has been imbued with the pure energy of the slime. His abilities have increased. His mana has risen by 5. He is in shock, saying, "I've never heard of unknown pieces enhancing abilities." He realizes that the Grimoire grants stat boosts for food. Then Woojin calls out to Jun, who is still confused. "Do you like the food?" Woojin asks. Jun reflects on the ingredient. It was a monster, and concludes that Woojin must have done his best. He then says it was actually delicious. Woojin asks, "Are you being serious?" After that, Jun thanks Woojin for saving him earlier, but as he looks at Woojin, he feels a strange sensation. He says, "Now I'm certain of it." He realizes that he needs to escape at that very moment. He is absolutely sure that if he does not run now, Woojin will make him eat another one of his dishes. Jun quickly thanks him again for saving him and for sharing his food. But before he can finish, Woojin tells him, "I have more dishes for you to try." Jun rushes away, running as he says, "I can't trouble my savior any further. Thank you for everything." Woojin watches him leave and mutters, "It's shameful." The spirit girl comments, indeed, he is someone who appreciates the chef's cooking, and that she is the only one in the world who does. Woojin says, "Perhaps we will meet again." Jim mentions, "Tomorrow will be our last day in the tower. We should gather more ingredients." In the city of Su, there are only 2 hours left before the tutorial portal closes. Suddenly, Woon emerges from the portal with the spirit girl by his side. She says it feels great to breathe fresh air after such a long time. Woon states, "We will return now." The girl agrees. Woojin receives a message from the system, congratulating him for completing the tutorial tower official, making him a hunter, and granting him access to the status window and inventory. Woojin is surprised as he reads about the status and inventory windows. But then, he suddenly senses a presence behind him. He immediately grabs what appears to be a spirit. With his full aura, he intimidates the spirit that had been hovering around him. With a serious expression, he asks, "What is it?" The frightened girl tells him, "Calm down, chef." Another system window pops up, asking Woojin if he would like to check the instructions on how to use the inventory and status window. He wonders what would happen if he declined. He thinks it through. He makes up his mind and decides to accept. Suddenly, the spirit begins merging into his body, and Woojin finds it fascinating. He realizes that he can open both the status and inventory windows just by thinking about them. He can freely check his stats and store or retrieve items. Displayed there are quests, daily missions that require him to cook in a dungeon and serve food to another person. Woon comments that this is much simpler than he expected. The spirit girl confirms those are the daily missions. Woon reflects that cooking is not a problem since he does it all the time, but the real issue is serving food to others. He says if the situation gets worse, I will have to force Shano to eat the dish. Suddenly, a voice calls out to Woojin, addressing him as a brat and scolding him for daring to enter the portal without informing him. The man speaking is Shano, who says, "I've been waiting all day for you." Woojin is surprised and wonders why Shano was even there. Shano explains that he is there to take Woojin back and congratulates him for reaching the 3rd floor. But without wasting time, Shano gets straight to the point. "I asked Sujin to join my guild. he says. The scene cuts and Woojun and the spirit girl are walking together when the girl remarks, "We have arrived." She is amazed by the structure of the Hunter Academy. Woojun, also surprised by the place, confirms this is the academy. On the way home, Woojun and Shano argue about joining the guild. Woojun claims that he does not have enough skills, though he doubts that he only cleared the first floor. Shano recommends Woojun for the guild, saying, "If you pass the practical test, you can join the same guild as me." That sounds like a great opportunity. Even so, Woojun refuses and Shano becomes visibly frustrated. Shano tries to convince Woojun by offering benefits, equipment, special schedules tailored to his skills, and questions, "Why are you rejecting this?" Woojun responds, "This is exactly why I'm refusing." His answer deeply frustrates Shano. Woojun then reveals that he became a hunter to improve his culinary skills, shocking Shano. Shano questions, "Did you abandon your dream of becoming a chef when you entered the tower?" Woojun firmly states, "I would never do that." Shano exclaims, "You're going to regret this deeply if you keep acting this way." They both stop walking and Woojun asks, "Why?" Shano reveals if Woojun doesn't register with a guild within a week, the government will send him to the Hunter Academy. Woojun is confused upon hearing the name of the academy. Ho says, "It's exactly as you heard." Shano begins explaining it's a state-run academy for hunters and the treatment inside is terrible. It's difficult to transfer to private guilds from there. He continues, "There's a lot of discrimination inside and the education system is outdated." Woojun adds, "The Hunter Academy can access any dungeon in Jung with an observer, but the dangers are greater than they seem." Woojun gets excited upon learning that they can enter any dungeon. He says, "I'll think more about it, but I'm feeling a little tired right now." Shano understands that Woojun is exhausted and eases up on him. Then CNO tells him, "Make sure you decide before you get dragged into the academy." Woojun replies, "I'll decide as soon as possible." Woojun receives a message on his phone and reflects, "I only have until next week." The message was from the Hunter Academy, making him realize he needs to make a careful decision. While cooking another dish, Woojun reflects that unlike the tower where ingredients were limited to things like slimes, the outside world offers an abundance of options. Woojun says, "Thanks to this, I can create new recipes and gain 2 more levels within the week, but I failed the mission of serving food to someone else." He tried to serve food to Shano, but Shano refused, saying he would only eat it if one joined his guild. "Woojun, you're ungrateful," Woojun mutters under his breath. The spirit girl sighs and says, "It's a shame. Will you still be a chef if you join the Hunter Academy?" Woojun firmly responds, "That's exactly why I became a hunter in the first place. Even if I join the academy, I intend to keep cooking." Suddenly, Woojun receives a call from Shanho. He assumes that Shano must have already found out about his intention to join the academy. He hangs up, muttering, "Ungrateful brat." Woojun has now arrived at the Hunter Academy. He is surprised by the place, and the spirit girl comments, "The atmosphere here is quite unique." They observe a young man visibly excited about becoming a hunter, but at the same time filled with concern of his future. As the spirit girl watches the people, she remarks, "There are all kinds of people in this place." One notices that for a renovated but previously abandoned high school, the hallways and gymnasium are very clean. Woojun hears students talking about someone named Jay. They mention an article that highlighted his achievement of reaching the 3rd floor and how he resembles the photo published. Baxila is also there and is questioned about why she is present, considering that she had already joined the Chianic Guild. Woojun becomes curious about what kind of person she is. Woojun also spots Hongjun there and says, "I didn't expect to see him." The spirit girl notices someone on the stage and tells Woojun, "Look at him." She comments, "The guy looks like he has a head as smooth as a griffin's egg." Then the entrance ceremony begins, and they are about to hear the academy director speak. The academy director steps onto the stage and prepares to speak. He begins by introducing himself as the director of the Hunter Academy, stating, "My name is Lee Chien Jai." While the students are startled by his intense tone of voice, Lee Chi says, "I am deeply troubled by the decline in the prestige of the Hunter Academy." Woojun notices that the energy of this speech reminds him of something. He recalls his most loyal subordinate, the leader of the 3 demons of the celestial demonic sect. The director continues, saying that there are many reasons for the current situation. However, the most fundamental one is the lies and attitudes of the students who enter the academy. Woojun then notices something and mutters, "He is here as well, the blood demon Waki." There stood the leader of the 3 demons of the celestial demonic sect, blood demon Gwaki. Woojun is surprised to see Elder Guang in this world. As the director brings up the chaos of the gate incident that occurred 30 years ago, Woojun remembers that Elder Gwaki was his most loyal soldier, still valiant. Cheon once remarked that Gujang Man, the leader of the Ju family, was similar to him, Jang did not rely on items but became strong purely through training. And now Woojun questions what has happened to the hunters of today. He asks, who would enter the tutorial tower without protection? Woojun reflects that the elder has found happiness in this world and decides that he will help him. Sean Jan touches with entry. Looking at the director, he admitted that no matter how much he tried, he could not remember who he was. He said that the man had single-handedly subdued B-rank monsters and that Li Cheng was present during the gate incident. He added that after researching Hunter, he found that Li Chi's words were true. Jun reflected, with that level of skill, why did he become just an academy director? Jun continued to reflect, remembering that before the regression, the academy director was not Li Chi-yong-ji, and he wouldn't forget something so fundamental. Jun then concluded that he needed to find the other changes caused by his regression. That's why he came to the academy with a serious expression on his face. This is just the beginning, he said. I need to investigate what happened due to my regression. Suddenly, a teacher was instructing students on how to punch. The teacher said, you need to attack the mannequin with full force. Once the attack is over, the points will appear in front of you. He concluded, this is just a test to assess your levels. I will explain the academy's rules after the test ends. The teacher continued, those who use weapons can practice with the weapons on the left. And then, the teacher asked if anyone has any questions. A girl raises her hand and questions, why do we need to do it 5 times if once would be enough? The teacher explains, it's to measure how long you can maintain your maximum power. Another student asks, what's the highest score the vice director has ever shown? The teacher responds, he's a B-rank hunter. It would be easier if he used that as a reference. If there are no more questions, the teacher continues, let's proceed. Please form a line and step forward. The first girl delivers her first attack, scoring 300.2 points. A boy follows, throwing his first punch, earning 272 points. Another young man attacks the mannequin and achieves a score of 403 points. Woojun, observing the other participants, comments to himself, I already understand the scoring criteria, even with some new techniques, but the skills are disappointing. The spirit girl notices a familiar face, and the next to take the test is Ju Woojun reflects, Jun has returned. He hadn't used his power before, probably because he was concerned about me. I wonder how he'll act now. Woojun says that based on the martial arts he had shown before, he should be able to score around 19,000 points. And then Song Jun strikes the mannequin, receiving a grand total of 3,970 points. Win realizes that he was hiding his strength as he had used energy on his spear in the tower. Woojun continues, saying that the score was very good and surpassed all previous scores, but Sang Jun must have a reason for hiding his power. Other participants say that finally it was her turn. Then the next participant was Bexil, who was already on her way to the mannequin. The audience wondered how many points Bexil would achieve. She begins breathing deeply, preparing for her attack, while a blue aura of intense concentration surrounds her body. In the blink of an eye, with her incredible speed, she charges at the mannequin and delivers her attack. All the participants are amazed by the astonishing speed she displayed when striking the mannequin. And so, the scoring machine was calculating her score. With that magnificent attack, she reached 10,793 points, thus achieving a perfect score, which to her seemed effortless. All the participants were shocked and frightened upon seeing that she achieved a perfect score. Some guys wondered if she was using some kind of artifact, but they quickly realized she wasn't. Woojun then attacked and scored 222 points. Thus, he decided it was best to stay out of this competition. Jan and Beck's high scores became a hot topic among the students, leading Woojun to enroll in the academy after receiving the rules from Mins. After some time, the Hunter Academy dormitory was shown. Woojun, who was already cooking, said that the dormitory wasn't so bad. Woojun then observed that there was a different kind of freedom there compared to his home, and while cooking, he realized that salad went well with blue slime base. Woojun's brother had told him that he would be exploited at the academy, but Woojun wondered why he would join a guild in such a troublesome place. He reflected that at the academy, he could cook whenever he wanted and serve others. Woojun said that besides that, the classes were very interesting and that he needed to learn the basic theory with many subjects about common dungeon monsters. Woojun added that students complained they could find information quickly on the internet, but underestimate the value of learning directly from teachers. Suddenly, Woojun says, now that I think about it, today is the day I need to do something. I should leave before it's too late. Now, in the Hunter Academy gym, the instructor greets the students. It seems a new activity is about to begin. The instructor starts by saying, today, as previously announced, will be your first mission. I will now announce the teams for the dungeon exploration. The instructor continues, I will now call the students and hunters with observation skills. They will lead the exploration of a low-level dungeon as a team. With that, the instructor begins calling out the names. Wei reflects a dungeon exploration mission is really exciting. After that, the instructor starts calling the students in order. Then the instructor announces, the next team will be Yu Cyan, Ark Il-O, and the Observer Hunter Yu Woojin Kim. Kim Jong and Lee Ji-yi will be in another team, and their observer will be Kim Jong-do. And now, the instructor is about to announce the last team. Cheon Woojin and Bak Sing, the girl who scored 10,000 points. Woojin became alert upon hearing that he would be teaming up with Bak Sing. The girl didn't seem very pleased about having to team up with such a weak hunter. The instructor announced Kimchi Guk as the observer hunter, leaving the students surprised. They associated him with the renowned hunter from the Jew family. The spirit girl commented, "It seems like this guy is very famous." With that, the announcements came to an end. The instructor explained that after the presentation of the observer hunters, the students should find their teams. Most of the teams were from the academy, while others were guests. As the entrance doors opened, the instructor concluded, "Your task is to complete the exploration dungeon under the guidance of the observers." At that moment, the hunters arrived, and the students were supposed to look for their respective teams. Kimchi Guk entered the gym, causing an uproar among the students who wondered if the academy had really recruited him. Kimchi Guk quickly made his way toward Woojin's team. He said, "I'll speak casually. Is that okay?" The girl responded, "It's fine." Kimchi Guk thought this would be a good opportunity to do a favor in exchange for something from Chianik. He explained to the girl, "I declined being a lecturer, but accepted because of my connection with Chianik." And the Jew family, Kim suggested, she should learn from a B-rank hunter like me. The girl looked at him with disdain and firmly stated, "I'm just Kadet Bakeseal, from the academy, not the daughter of Chianik from the Bake Dujang Guild." Kim felt awkward and nodded, saying, "I understand. I'll be more careful from now on." The spirit girl, who had been observing the exchange, muttered, "This guy is irritating. He seems to be disrespecting us." Woojin said nothing and continued watching, his gaze steady. Kim then revealed that he had analyzed the list of available dungeons, all of which were focused on training. He showed his phone to his two teammates. Bake was surprised by the location they were assigned. "Are we really going there?" she asked. Kim confirmed with a serious expression, "Yes, we're heading to the Killer Bee dungeon." They arrived at Nangaroo Station, where the entrance to the Killer Bee dungeon was located. Kim explained, although the dungeon looks like a pleasant park, hunters avoid it because of its F-rank classification. The reason is the Killer Bees, treacherous F-rank monsters. Bake thought for a moment. "This dungeon is too dangerous for Woojin," she said, recalling how poorly he had scored on the test, and that he wasn't very skilled with a sword. She approached Woojin, saying that the Killer Bee dungeon was too dangerous. She suggested they should perhaps talk to Hunter Chikuk. But before anything else, Kim stated that as a B-rank hunter, his presence alone meant they wouldn't have any problems. He tried to remember the other participant's name. Woojin introduced himself, and the two exchanged greetings. Kim continued, saying that it wouldn't be right to underestimate Woojin as he had passed through the tower. He concluded that Woojin must have some ability to protect himself. Woojin didn't react, simply listening to the conversation. Kim commented that other guilds were sending their rookies to low-level dungeons, making them overcrowded and unsuitable for proper training. Woojin reflected that the other dungeons were too easy, so only Sealho would end up fighting. He wouldn't have the chance to show his skills. Kim said that they wanted them to get the most out of this training. He concluded that unless a boss or a C-rank or higher monster appeared, they wouldn't have any problems. However, he added that this dungeon was known for not having a boss, so there was no need to worry about that. He asked if they had any objections. Would they answer now? Blake says nothing, but thinks that, in this case, it was fine. The spirit girl was very irritated by the way Kim spoke. Now inside the dungeon, Kim says, "Before we start practicing, we will discuss insect-type monsters." He adds, "Insect-type monsters have a common poison, and we've already learned about it in class." Kim quickly attacks, piercing through a bee with his spear while mentioning the swarm controller. If you neutralize one of them, the rest would be much easier to handle. Blake had already located the leader of the bees and attacked. Immediately, Kim praises her work. The mana of the bee leader is unique but difficult to identify without experience, Kim explains. Proposing another method, Woojin searches the area for ingredients while Choke and Blake converse. Woon finds a Fenister plant and notices the diversity of ingredients compared to the tutorial tower. He decides to collect as much as possible, since they only exist in dungeons. Kim says if Blake requested it from the Jew family, she could have private lessons whenever I have time. Kim grows curious upon seeing Woon's behavior, wondering what he has been doing since they arrived. Kim, looking down on him, orders Woojin to stop collecting grass and follow them. Thinking that academy students are useless, Bake just observes and says nothing. Thinking that Woojin is like a textbook, Kim emphasizes that the basics of dungeon exploration consist of prioritizing an understanding of the environment and ecology during exploration. Growing impatient, Kim scolds Woojin, ordering him to stop collecting and join the group, questioning why he is exploring a dungeon that has already been investigated. The spirit girl becomes irritated, calling Kim an annoying idiot and questioning how he dared to interrupt the sacred moment of the chief collecting ingredients. Kim, already tired of yelling at Woojin, tells Seal Ha to follow him, leaving Woojin behind. Suddenly, Woojin acquires a recipe called Killer Bee Honey, one of its ingredients being the honeycomb jelly of an assassin bee. Woojin says that they had been inside the dungeon for 10 minutes, but he had not seen a single honeycomb jelly. He reflects that even though assassin bees are huge, their behavior should not be different from normal bees. Kim and Baek were fighting against the bees, and at that moment, Kim tells Baek not to overdo it because she cannot get injured. Woojin, while searching for the honeycomb jelly, states, "I need to explore this place." He explains that staying with the group hinders his ingredient collection. He distances himself from the group, saying, "You're all skilled. You won't be in danger without me." They had already eliminated 15 bees, but they kept coming, relentless, and without giving them a break. Blake says, even though we neutralized the bee leader, the bees continue moving as a group, just like from the start. Bape reflects, "If it were for Kim, we'd be in serious danger." She adds, "This dungeon is much more dangerous than I was told." She then adds, "If it's like this for me, it must be even more complicated for Woojin." But when she looks back, Woojin had disappeared from her sight. Confused, she doesn't understand what happened. Kim says in situations like this, but before he can finish, Baek cuts him off, saying he's gone. At first, Kim doesn't understand, but Baek clarifies Woojin's disappeared. Kim panics upon hearing that and begins shouting Woojin's name, hoping he will appear. In distress, Kim becomes frantic, calling Woojin an idiot and saying, "I never liked him," especially considering they were only gathering herbs while the others hunted. Suddenly, the two were startled by a thunderous roar. Kim felt his head tremble and his vision blur. He immediately sensed that the sound was different from the usual fluttering of the assassin bee's wings. Vague also winced in pain from the intense noise. Out of nowhere, a glowing red alert window appeared above them. The two looked at each other in panic, unsure of what was happening. The alert read that the queen of the assassin bees had emerged, furious due to an intrusion into her nest. A coordinated swarm attack had been triggered. Meanwhile, Woojin, while calmly defending himself, said he had made the right choice by moving away from the area. He noted that he still had many ingredients to gather, that the faint, sweet aroma he had sensed earlier was growing stronger, indicating something valuable ahead. While following the scent, Woojin noticed something unusual on the path. The spirit girl, who had fallen slightly behind, called out, "Where are you going?" She insisted they stay close together. As they continued forward, they stumbled upon a massive cave. The spirit girl blinked in surprise. "How did we not notice this before?" Woojin explained it must have been hidden deep within the dungeon. Woojin reflects that if he hadn't trained his sense of smell to find honey, he wouldn't have discovered the cave. It was rare for anyone to come near this place. As he walks through the cave, he says, "We might have found the source of that sweet scent." The spirit girl is amazed upon discovering a massive beehive. She names the place the Honey Mine. Woojin is surprised by the size of the honey rocks. "I like to taste them, to know their flavor," he says. But as soon as Woojin touches the rock, a warning alert appears before them. Woojin turns around and sees that the warning states the queen bee is enraged by the invasion of her nest. A loud sound echoes after the announcement appears, and Woojin thinks it came from outside the cave. Chuck and Baek are running while Chigik says, "I didn't expect things to go wrong like this." He grumbles, "If I had known this would happen, I would have brought a tracker from the academy." Chuck grows fearful at the thought that if he leaves the dungeon without one of the cadets, all his efforts to be recognized as part of the Jew family will be wasted. Vacant desperation suggests that they should split up to search faster, but the instructor says it's pointless. While dealing with the bees, the instructor continues, "If I were to disappear, they would be in much greater trouble." The instructor then tells Baek, "You should know in situations like this, splitting up is far more dangerous." Baek acknowledges his words, but suddenly, the instructor says, "Stop, hide." They hear a very strange noise coming from ahead, but remain quiet. Then the queen bee, a C-rank boss, is revealed. The instructor immediately panics and exclaims, without a doubt, this is a dungeon boss. But why would a boss be in an F-rank dungeon, where there shouldn't be one? He adds, "Defeating a C-rank boss with cats who have just become hunters would be impossible. I'd need at least 3 B-rank hunters." Frantic, he remembers, after 6 hours from the boss's appearance, the dungeon will completely close. That leaves only 2 options, escape or die. The instructor tries to calm himself down, supposing if I resolve this, Chi and Ash might reward me. They comment that the boss hasn't noticed them yet, so it would be best to retreat. But before they can act, they realize the queen bee has already sensed their presence. Before they can react, the queen bee is hovering over them, and suddenly it begins its aerial attack. While Chica tells Beck to retreat, the instructor comes up with the idea of using the geographical advantage in her favor, using the large trees to hide so they won't be easily detected. While being attacked, he says, "I'll buy time. You need to return and prepare yourself." Beck is shocked by the bee's attack as it effortlessly cuts through all the trees. The instructor mutters, "It's much stronger than I expected." He realizes that he will have to use his special technique, the spiral spear first form. He charges forward, launching a series of fierce spear attacks. After this ferocious assault, the instructor realizes that all his efforts have only cracked the bee's outer shell. He tells Beck, "Run." Beck hesitates, but the instructor insists, "Leave now while I hold it off." However, suddenly Beck returns, saying, "My father told me never to turn my back on an enemy." She declares, "I will fight too." The instructor loses his composure, shouting, "You don't understand the situation." He warns her, "This is the C-rank boss. Be careful about what comes next." Suddenly, the bee launches another extremely fast attack, but the instructor barely manages to dodge it. However, as soon as he dodges, he realizes that CeeLo won't be able to evade it. CA charges at the bee and strikes with her sword. After Beck's attack, she reflects that she can protect herself for a while, but her attack had no effect at all, not even leaving a scratch. The instructor says it would be best if they divided their roles. While Bike distracts the bee, he will finish the attack with his spiral spear. Knowing they can't prolong the battle, he decides to end the boss with one powerful attack before his stamina runs out. He plans to destroy its exterior in one blow. Thus, they launch their attack using all their mana, saying that this would be their only chance. Bake runs ahead, drawing the bee's attention and dodging its attack. Then the bee starts chasing Bake, hunting her down. But she realizes that something was different from how it was at the beginning. The queen bee was calling other bees closer to her. While being attacked by the smaller bees, Bake says that she needs to buy time for the instructor to get ready. At that moment, Bake thought that all was lost. But suddenly, the instructor attacks, using all his mana and executing his second form, Spiral Spear technique. Piercing through the queen bee and everything in his path, he sends the bee flying while Bake falls to the ground. She asks if they had defeated it. The instructor replies, "Not even the strongest monster in the dungeon could withstand a direct hit from my Spiral Spear at full power." Bake breathes a sigh of relief. It's a relief. We should go back to looking for Woojin. But just then, she is suddenly ambushed from behind by the queen bee, which hadn't been defeated. Chiak, who has been watching everything, is in shock. Before Bak can react, the queen bee strikes with a furious attack, sending Bake flying. She crashes hard against a tree trunk. Chuck, watching everything unfold, feels desperate at the sheer rage of the queen bee. The instructor realizes that he has no way to resolve this situation and falls into complete despair. Reflecting on how he used all his power in the last attack, he thinks, after all this, just to gain recognition, "I'm going to die in a place like this." He concludes that it's all because of that bastard Woojin, thinking, if not for him, we could have just hidden somewhere and waited for the dungeon to open. The instructor thinks to himself, while the bee is distracted with me, maybe Seal can make a new attack. But then he realizes that the queen bee is looking elsewhere, and there he was, Woojin, coming toward them to save them. The instructor, furious, calls Woojin an idiot and asks, "Where have you been all this time? Why did you only appear now? Run away from the monster." As Woojin prepares his attack, the instructor keeps shouting at him to run. "If you stay here, you'll be killed." The queen bee charges at Woojin with full force. But before it can do anything, Woojin slices it in half with his sword in a single attack. The instructor is in complete disbelief at the sight. Woojin doesn't even appear to have broken a sweat. Lying on the ground, the instructor asks himself, what just happened? He can't believe what he's seeing. Woojin had cut the queen bee in half. He had thought Woojin was a nobody. The instructor wonders if he had been overreacting when he thought he was going to die. But after thinking it through, he realizes that the queen bee had enough power to kill him. And yet, Woojin had completely annihilated it. Reevaluating his past actions toward Woojin, the instructor realizes that he is now in trouble. As he walks toward Woojin to speak to him, he loses control due to fear and wonders. How did he do that? But Woojin simply ignores him and starts walking away. The instructor then realizes that he should take care of Bake, so he heads toward her. He sees that she is still unconscious, but is not in mortal danger. Her mana circulation is normal. Cheon notices that Woojin is holding a beehive in his hands and wonders if he had wandered off to search for that. He realizes that Woojin also has an inventory and questions who got it for him, concluding that if someone close to him gave it to him, he needs to learn more about Woojin. Then he thinks that Woojin must have cleared the 3rd floor of the tutorial tower. That would be the only way this situation would make sense. The instructor keeps pondering why Woodun joined the academy instead of a guild, asking himself, what the hell is he really? But then he smells a strong, unpleasant odor and wonders what Woojun is doing. The instructor approaches Woojun, asking, what is that? He notices that Woojun had cooked something and questions, what are you making? The instructor considers the possibility that Woojun had used alchemy to create whatever it was and also thinks that it might be an item that repels monsters with its smell. He realizes that Woojun used the beehive in the dish, possibly from the assassin bees, but he doesn't understand why he added mushrooms, thinking they were just weeds. He believes the dish Wooji made was meant to poison the queen bee, but since she was already dead, there was no reason for him to do that. But suddenly, Woojun offers a piece of his new dish to Cheek, leaving him completely stunned. Breaking into a cold sweat, he realizes that Woojun really wanted him to eat that dish and was actually cooking. Cheek thinks that Woojun is holding a grudge and making him eat it to make him feel sick. Chag looks at the bee lying on the ground, split in half, and says that it's better for his stomach to suffer than to be cut in half while taking a bite. He reassures himself that he won't die from eating it. But as soon as he puts a piece of the cake in his mouth, he feels a horrible sensation, as if he's about to die. He describes the food as terrible, with a shocking texture like larvae crawling in his mouth. The cooked honeycomb was too soft, and the mushrooms were too slippery. Cheg is confused by the dish's bitter taste, considering it should be sweet due to the honeycomb. He wonders what Woojin added to the recipe. Still lamenting, Cheg believes Woo has taken his revenge. But before anything else, Woojin asks him about the taste of the dish. With tears in his eyes, Chuck responds, it's delicious. Suddenly, he notices a floating window before him, saying that he has gained poison resistance and that his body has been imbued with energy. Chuck realizes that the dish increased his poison resistance and concludes that it happened because it was made with monster ingredients. He then observes Woojun and wonders, who the hell is he really? Meanwhile, Woojun is checking the details of his dish. He comments that Chegek has exceeded his expectations by recognizing the value of the meal. He also says that Chuck has an excellent palate, more refined than he had anticipated. While many achievements unlock in his system, Woojin affirms that adding the queen bee's gland was a good choice since its spicy acidity balanced the sweetness of the jelly, creating a deeper flavor. The spirit girl tastes the dish and declares, this is the ultimate meal, encompassing the 5 basic human flavors. Woojin then concludes that he has already completed his daily missions and decides to gather more ingredients. But suddenly Bake, who had been unconscious, wakes up and gets up. She says that she definitely fainted after being ambushed by the queen bee. Observing that the queen bee has already been defeated, she assumes that instructor Chiguk was the one who took it down, making him even more impressive than she had thought. Chuck, still disgusted by the food, notices that Bake has regained consciousness. The instructor gets the idea of offering some of the dish to Bake, considering that his own poison resistance had increased after eating it. He offers her the dish, saying she should eat to regain her strength, adding that Woojun was the one who prepared it. She thanks him for the meal. As she is about to take a bite, both Chiak and Woodun eagerly anticipate her reaction. As she chews, Chag asks how the food tastes. Surprised after swallowing the piece, she exclaims that it's delicious and that she has never tasted anything like it before. Jaga becomes even more confused, questioning what she just said. When Bake was a child, she had great difficulty experiencing taste. Her father, trying to help her, obtained an item from a dungeon through a friend. That item was supposed to restore her appetite. He was hopeful that it would help his daughter, but she still couldn't taste anything. Her father then fell into deep sorrow while she apologized for being unable to taste anything despite all of his efforts. She told him it's fine. Instead of tasting food, I can experience something even better. But after trying Wynn's dish, Bake reports, this is the first time I've felt something like this. She adds, I haven't experienced anything like this in 20 years, despite you spending a fortune trying everything you could. Chuck thinks that Bake is misunderstanding the situation, assuming she lost her sense of taste due to the shock of everything that had happened. Bake says, my tongue feels numb after experiencing that flavor. Meanwhile, Chuck is thrown into complete confusion over what she is saying. Outside the dungeon, many people from the academy and reporters have gathered. Several news reports have emerged about the appearance of an unexpected boss in that dungeon. A boss that had remained dormant for 5 years had suddenly appeared. A man walks toward the portal's entrance. That man is Bak's father, the leader of the Cheon Guild. He asked his secretary, is my daughter safe? The secretary affirms, she's your daughter. She'll surely be fine. One of the reporters interviewed Beck's father, asking how he felt knowing that his daughter was trapped inside the dungeon. The secretary snapped at the reporter, saying, how dare you ask such a rude question? Realizing that this was a highly delicate situation, the reporter turned off his recorder. Beck's father was not pleased at all with the reporter's attitude. He called him an insolent fool, a worthless fool. The The secretary told the guild leader to calm down, reminding him that many eyes were on them and that he should consider the guild's image. Suddenly, the portal's entry restriction was lifted and it seemed like someone was coming out of it. The secretary and the guild leader focused their attention on the portal as the guild leader moved closer to it. And then, emerging from the portal, were Becht, Sayla, Kim, Chiak, and Woojin, all three safe and sound. The guild leader hugged his daughter, saying, "It's a miracle," while the crowd was astonished that a C-rank boss had been defeated by a B-rank hunter and 2 students. People noticed the item in Chiak's hand. They affirmed that it was a trophy obtained by defeating the boss. Weapons and artifacts are classified into 5 categories: common, rare, unique, epic, and legendary. Chuck reflected that in Korea, the number of people possessing legendary items could be counted on one hand. This item was extremely valuable, but the crowd quickly became emotional. They turned to Chuck and asked how he had defeated a C-rank boss and what kind of monster the assassin had been. They kept asking how he had ensured the students' safety. Chuck was completely confused as to why they were directing these questions at him. A man recording the scene commented that it looked like Chuck had defeated the C-rank monster all by himself. Chuck, at a loss for words, remained silent while glancing at Woojin. A man in charge of the academy was worried about maintaining his position due to the academy's performance. But after seeing the news that Chuck had defeated a C-rank monster, he concluded that Chuck was responsible. Chuck was more skilled than he had seemed. And after the dungeon closed, various reports emerged about multiple countries showing interest in the C-rank boss. Many comments praising Chuck were posted, emphasizing the prestige of the Jew family who had published the news. Chuck stated that without the students' help, he wouldn't have survived. While some users questioned his statement, the man in charge of the academy wondered if Chigak had really defeated a C-rank boss alone at his current level. He concluded that Chigak had been incredibly lucky and was pleased to have recruited him. He then noticed that his door was opening, revealing the 3 dungeon participants, the academy's heroes. The director invited the 3 to sit down and talk, while Chuck felt embarrassed by the praise. The director explained that he called them to ensure they received a bonus, and also because he wanted to hear what happened inside the dungeon. Chigak began by saying that, as he had stated in his report, it would have been extremely difficult without Woojin and Bax's help. Chuck wanted to approach the topic calmly and initially thought it was just a typical EF-ranked dungeon. Then, he started recounting the events inside. Woojin listened with complete boredom. After hearing everything, the director found the situation very peculiar. Chigak continued, saying that this time he was there to accompany them, allowing them to clear the dungeon, but they needed to prepare for future anomalies. The director noticed that the student named Woojin seemed very familiar to him. He commented that Woojin's energy felt familiar and that he had been recommending strange food to students. But suddenly, the director realized that Woojin was the SEC leader. The director couldn't hide his shocked expression and was immediately questioned about what was wrong. Chek was confused and asked if there was a problem. Regaining his composure, the director said that he had spoken enough and that they should rest now, but he was still utterly astonished that the SEC leader was there. As they left, Big praised everyone's efforts in the dungeon. Chek suggested that she visit a hospital just in case and report her condition later. Chek told Woojin to go ahead, saying he would catch up later, but before Chek could leave, Woojin told him to wait a moment. Chek was terrified that Woojin was about to reveal the truth after all the news reports had been published. He was genuinely afraid of this possibility. Even though Woojin had not said anything and also had no need for the boss's trophy, Woojin had remained silent in front of the reporters and showed no interest in the trophies. So Chiak couldn't imagine what Woojin was about to say, but all Woojin wanted was to exchange phone numbers with Chuck. Leaving him completely stunned, Woojin asked for Chigak's number, saying that he would bring him another dish next time. Chigak was completely caught off guard after hearing that. It felt as if all of his strength had left him, and he walked away without giving any response. Meanwhile, the spirit girl grew furious, calling him a reckless idiot and saying that the one who had defeated the dungeon boss was no longer him. Woojin reflected that people tend to notice those who are hungry first and that he didn't want to draw attention to himself. After everything that had happened, he had obtained new ingredients and recipes. Now it was time to return to cooking. In Woojin's classroom, the students were questioning him about whether the news reports were true. The news covered Chigak's statement that he had subdued a C-rank boss, claiming that the help of the students was crucial. Woojin's classmates kept asking him questions like what it was like to see a C-rank monster in person and what his teammates were like. Woojin reflected that, for the first time, he had been able to complete his daily missions thanks to Bake and Cheek. Now he was thinking about who he would make taste his food that day. Professor Kim Jong-woo entered the classroom, telling everyone that it was time for class and that they should take their seats. The professor reminds them that in the last lesson, they studied labyrinth traps. While Woodham continues to think about who he will serve his food to today, a professor says, "I will discuss with you while you watch the practical exercises on the screen." The first participant is Hansen. During his practical test, he appears completely lost amidst the thick smoke. The professor comments, "If this were a real situation, you would already be dead. You should hold your breath and assess the situation." Gainang is disappointed with his performance, but the professor reassures him it's normal to feel frustrated. However, in real situations, you will never know what to expect. The professor starts worrying about how the students will perform in the tournament that will take place in 2 months. The Hunter Tournament is a competition where those who pass the tutorial tower showcase their abilities. Winning the tournament guarantees public recognition and the chance to enter major guilds like Celestial Wings. But the Academy has not had any stand-up performances in the past 10 years. The professor wonders, is there still enough time to teach them something that could help them perform better in the tournament? He continues observing the practical training. He notices that Baek performed exceptionally well and comments she could already be sent to the field. It was strange that she was still in the academy. Xianjian also had an outstanding performance, and the professor says it was perfect. The professor remarks, among these students, there are a few worth keeping an eye on. Next in line for evaluation is Wu Jin. Seonjun pays close attention as his name is called. He reflects that Wu Jin is a man full of mysteries. No one knows what he is truly capable of, nor his strength, not even why he enrolled in the academy. Xianjian had been observing Wu Jin throughout the academy, but all he ever did was cook. He didn't expect Wu Jin to display his power, but as a precaution, he decided to keep watching him carefully. Wu Jin appears to fail miserably in his test, but he does it on purpose, pulling a lever and simulating his own death. As a result, he earns 0 points, possibly the worst score in the class. The professor is so frustrated by Wu Jin's performance that he is left speechless. The spirit girl, outraged, exclaims, "The professor should not disrespect the chief." She calls him an insolent fool. Shanjun reflects that Wu Jin was deliberately messing up, but he couldn't understand why. In the academy's cafeteria, a few students were complaining, saying that if it weren't for that bastard, they wouldn't even be here. They continued grumbling that someone had interfered, preventing them from reaching the 3rd floor of the tower, but they had passed thanks to one of their own. One of his so-called 3 useless brothers declared, "I will kill that bastard the next time I see him," and continued ranting about how much he disliked the professor's teaching methods. He recalled that the professor had mentioned they were lucky to have passed the tutorial tower with their current level full of skill, and that everyone in the academy was on the same level. While walking through the cafeteria, one of the brothers noticed a rather strange dish on one of the tables. They wondered who could be eating such terrible-looking food until they realized it was Woojun, the very bastard they had been talking about. Uncomfortable, the 3 brothers sat at the same table where Woojun was eating. They were trembling with fear because they knew from Woojun's reaction that he clearly remembered them. If they made even the slightest move, they would be in big trouble. The spirit girl questioned Woojun, "Why are you making so much noise while eating? Do you know those people?" He replies that they seem familiar, but he doesn't remember where he saw them before. That Woojun gets an idea. He decides to offer them a bite of his dish, the blue slime salad he had just prepared. One of the brothers was in disbelief and wondered, "Is that thing really edible?" Woojun asked, "Aren't you going to eat?" The brothers saw death looming behind Woojun. After a moment of hesitation, the young man decided to try the dish. He said, "It's not like I'm going to die. It's better than being beaten up again." After tasting it, he grimaced. "My stomach feels like it's on fire," he complained. "It's either like mouthwash or swallowing an entire mint plant." They tried to find something good about the taste, but ended up defeated. Vomiting everything they had eaten, Wing said, "I expected this reaction from you. Once again, I've met people who appreciate the flavor." Woojun asked, "Are you enjoying the food?" One of the brothers was about to reply, "It's impossible to enjoy that." But upon seeing Wing's aura, he quickly changed his words. "It's delicious." A new professor named Lee Jung-shik introduced himself, saying, "I'm in charge of understanding dungeon types." The professor announced, "Anyone with more than 3 absences will be expelled from the class. Paying attention to the lectures will help with the exam in 3 weeks." The students doubted the quality of the class as the professor asked, "Does anyone have any questions before I begin?" The professor explained about the Gauntlet Station, also known as the Honey Dungeon, but warned, it's a dangerous place for novice hunters. Woojun remarked, "This is a great lesson, combining both personal and systematic interest." The professor continued explaining the dungeons of Hangi and noted the most famous one is the Javali Westland, located on the outskirts of Wangsmi. The spirit girl pointed out there's a pig considered a delicacy there. Woojun observed, "Actually, it's a wild boar." Woojun thought about how wild boar meat had a strong flavor. The professor added, "The dungeon is a gold mine for E-rank hunters." He then said, "Many disappearances have occurred there. As long as the boars are still active, student entry is prohibited. The spirit girl lamented, "Those pigs look really delicious." Meanwhile, Won wondered, "Is there another way to get in?" Then the professor mentioned that with the director's authorization, students could go there, but he did not recommend it until they gained more experience. This gave Jin an idea. He would seek out Gok Chan. Now the academy director was wondering why the hell Woo Jun was in his office. Woo Jun apologized for his sudden visit, but the director told him he was free to speak comfortably and asked what had brought him there. At first, the director thought it was something about the Assassin Bee dungeon, but he quickly dismissed the idea. After all, Woo Jun was just a cadet with no notable skills in the tests. Yet, the more he looked at Woo Jun, the more he was reminded of the Southeast leader. But suddenly, the director sensed an energy coming from Woo Jun. He immediately recalled feeling that same energy from the Southeast leader. He was astonished and asked, "Where did you learn that martial art?" Woo Jun explained, "When I was young, I went on a trip to Mount Bu. I had an accident and got trapped there. I entered a cave, found a chest with old books, and out of curiosity, I read about martial arts from them." The academy director then concluded the sect leader must have left the book on Mount Biktu instead of Mount Tansen. The director recalled how the sect leader had lamented that his followers had not realized this, assuming that he had been disappointed that they did not follow his teachings. However, the director still did not understand why the leader had left a book on Mount Beku. Then he concluded that based on Woo Jun's energy, there was a possibility that this story was true. Directly confronting Woo Jun, Wax said, "You seem very confident. How did you know I would recognize your aura the moment you released it?" Woo Jun thought that the director's meticulous nature was still the same, so he replied, "The book contained information about a person called the Blood Demon." Woo Jun commented that the book was very detailed and assumed that the director had learned martial arts from it. The director, now more hostile, questioned, "Can you really learn just by reading?" Woo Jun replied, "The book was written very well." The director assumed that the sect leader was never the type to do things on a whim. He must have written the book with great detail, making it necessary for him to hear more. Then the director asked Woo Jun, "Is that the only reason you sought me out, to tell me this without wasting any time?" Woo Jun requested permission from the director to enter the Javali Wesland dungeon. The director responded that normally that dungeon was not allowed, but given the martial art Woo Jun had learned, he would make an exception. The director asked Woo Jun to tell him more about the book because he found it intriguing, but suggested that Woo Jun return the next day since it was getting late. Woo Jun said he understood, and then the director asked, "Who do you plan to go to the dungeon with?" On top of a building, Cheek was reporting the events to his leader. His family leader, Ju Jongyong, acknowledged the report and told Cheek to leave now. As Cheek was leaving the room, the leader remarked that he had done a good job. So Cheek thanked him and exited. Outside the room, he jumped with joy, celebrating the fact that the family leader had recognized him. Cheek said, "The leader is a man of few words and never praises anyone." But now, Cheek had plenty of free time and was planning to go to a bar. Before that, he received a message from Woo Jun inviting him to the boar dungeon in Wasteland. Cheek bit his nails, wondering how he should explain this. Then he remembered seeing something about that dungeon in one of the rulebooks. He checks the Academy's rulebook, and there it is, the dungeon. He recalls that he had really wanted to go there before, but he couldn't without a permission letter. Chuck remembers that entering dungeons requires a team of 3 members, and that Shia's family wouldn't allow her to go since she was still recovering from her injuries. With a smile on his face, Chiak says, "There's no way we could go because the regulations are blocking us." After replying to Woon telling him that they needed permission, he thinks to himself that now he can finally relax with a drink. He remarks that Woon is being too clingy. But then Woojin replies saying, "We'll meet at 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow," and attaches an image of the permission granted by the director. The hunters who usually go to that dungeon are low-ranked ones who fled from the front lines. They go there for iron ore, which is popular due to its strong mana sensitivity and high durability. C rank and D rank hunters and even some B ranks typically use weapons made from iron ore. Some mining of iron ore provides good earnings, making that place crowded with hunters trying to gather resources. Check reflects that Woojin has exceptional skills. Chalk couldn't understand why Woojin had come to the dungeon if he was supposedly interested in minerals. He had noticed that ever since they entered, Woojin hadn't touched a single ore vein. Instead, he had only been gathering plants. Chick had called out to him, "From what I remember, the iron deposits are located more to the southeast." He assumed Woojin was here in mind, but Woojin's response only left him more confused. "I didn't even know there was a mining zone in this dungeon," Woojin replied, catching Chiak completely off guard. Still puzzled, Chivik tried to make sense of the situation. Why would anyone come here and ignore the main resource? Before he could press further, Woojin suddenly vanished from sight. Startled, Chivik took off after him, but even though Woojin appeared to be walking at a calm pace, he was moving far faster. After running a long distance and becoming completely exhausted, Chiguk finally caught up, still trying to figure out what Woojun's real purpose was. Woojun picked up a cactus and remarked, "Looks like this one's edible," smiling at it, which left Chiguk stunned once again. After exploring deeper into the dungeon, Woojun opened his cooking interface and muttered, "Just like how the Slime King's recipe used slime characteristics. This cactus might also be useful," Cheg said, approaching Woojun. "Why did you come to this dungeon?" Cheg asked, but instead, Woojun asked, "Where did the cactus come from?" Frustrated, Chuck responded, "It comes from the iron mine I mentioned earlier." Now losing his patience, Cheguk snapped, "I've been saying all along that it's in the southeast direction." Just as Cheguk was about to scold Woojun had already run far away before Cheguk could even finish his sentence. Completely exhausted from running, Chuck observed that Woojun had covered a 40-minute distance in just 5 minutes and was still perfectly fine. They arrived at the iron mine, and Cheguk wondered, why would Woojun, with his abilities, choose to join the Hunter Academy when he could be accepted anywhere? Before they entered the mine, a miner was seen coming out. "There was a child in the way," he muttered, referring to Woojun. "This is no place for idiots like him." He continued, "I'm already overwhelmed with all the people who've gone mining, and now I have to deal with kids like them." Becoming even more hostile toward Woojun, the miner asked, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you leaving already?" A miner partner recognized Kimchi standing next to Woojun and wondered why he was there since he could afford to buy tons of iron ore. Kimchi, intimidated by the shift in atmosphere, asked Woojun to explain. Chuck and the miner greeted and introduced themselves. The miner said, "It's nothing special. I'm just explaining the procedures to Chiguk's companion." He added that he was concerned because the mine was dangerous and that he had to be strict since Cheg's companion could get hurt inside. "I believe it's my duty as a human," he explained, "so I'll tell Cheg to finish clearing the mine quickly." Then the miner invited them to enter the mine. While Chiguk thanked everyone for their kindness, the miners grumbled. "We already have enough workers for the day," one of them said, questioning if it was really okay to let Woojun and Chiguk enter. The head miner spoke up. "They'll probably come back empty-handed without mining anything." As Woon and Chiak moved forward, they discussed which of the 3 paths to take, deciding that the deeper they went, the better the quality of the minerals would be. Chuck commented, "People tend to pick fights with Jin, but they change their attitude as soon as they see him." The spirit girl mentioned, "This must be the place the miners talked about, where many high-quality minerals are located." But suddenly, Cheguk remembered something. "We didn't bring any mining equipment," he pointed out. Wang then had the idea of mining the ores with his sword. However, Cheguk quickly warned him, "We need professional equipment for this." Chuck insisted none of the gear provided by the academy would be enough. But Wang casually sliced off a chunk of ore with his sword. After picking up the piece he had cut, he exclaimed, "This should be good enough." Chuck, watching the scene, was horrified. "Why are you cutting through the ore like that?" he wondered. Wang declared, "We're already done here." Chick questioned, "Are you even human, Jin?" As they were leaving, the miners asked, "Have you finished already?" Kim confirmed, "Yes, our work is done." The miners whispered behind their backs, "We expected them to leave empty-handed. No one should expect much from a B-rank hunter." Outside the cave, Chiguk was left speechless upon seeing that Woojun was cooking at that moment. As Woojun prepared his cactus, he commented, "The juice isn't bad, but the flavor is too bland. Still not good enough." Then he got the idea to make a slime sauce. He started by burning the slime sauce, then chopped peppers and onions, throwing them into the pan. Just as he imagined, after adding a spicy flavor, the dish became much more delicious. Woojun's cooking system announced that he had gained experience, created a dish of extreme quality, and that it was imbued with dungeon energy. The term dungeon and energy caught Woojun's attention. The spirit girl reappeared, celebrating that the chief had successfully cooked a dish surpassing great quality. "I knew you were capable of doing it," she said. She continued, explaining that dishes surpassing a grade were imbued with dungeon energy and granted special effects to those who ate them. Woojun confirmed that what the spirit said was true, as he had received an effect that increased his strength for 24 hours. Woojun decided to offer the cactus dish to the instructor. The instructor looked at Woojun's dish with disdain, wondering if it was even. But recalling the last dish Jin had made, he admitted that this one looked more normal than usual. Still hesitant to eat it, the instructor wondered if cactus could actually be grilled and eaten. But since Jin had already tasted it, he figured it should be fine. However, as soon as he put a piece in his mouth, he felt a strong urge to vomit, questioning what kind of flavor that was. While feeling disgusted by the food, he recalled hearing that cactus had a refreshing and spicy taste, but the texture reminded him of avocado. Struggling to chew, the instructor complained, "With each bite, my mouth feels like it's turning into a pot of oil." Suddenly, Jin handed Chuck a jar of sauce, saying he could mix it with the rest of the food. Chigak had faith that the sauce would improve the flavor of everything, but as soon as he put it in his mouth, he was immediately overcome by a spicy flavor. After experiencing horrible sensations, the instructor fell to the ground saying it was delicious. Woojin was happy that he appreciated the cuisine. While Chigak was lying down, he noticed a notification informing him that his strength had increased by 3 points for 24 hours. He is astonished upon realizing that his stats have increased, just like the last time he ate what Jin cooked. But this time, the effect lasts for 24 hours. Chika finally understands that Jin was not mocking him and that dungeon food was not meant to be a last resort. Suddenly, he feels his body shaking and thinks it's an earthquake. Immediately after, the miners scream for everyone to run because wild boars are approaching. Chaka prepares for battle, saying that boars are not difficult to hunt. What makes them dangerous is their habit of moving in herds. As the boars draw closer, Chega says, if I were alone, I would have avoided them. But with Woojin here, I do not fear the danger. Thus, he charges at them, using his spear to attack. He slashes the boars easily but notices that they are dwindling slowly. If Woojin had gathered them, it would have been easier. Just when Chega is about to call Jin's attention so he can fight properly, he can't spot him. Chega concludes that Woojin has been carried away by the boar herd. But then, a sinister aura whispers in his ear, criticizing the excessive flourish in his spear technique. He tries to figure out where the voice came from. Chayak notices that Woojin is standing atop a mountain peak. He wonders how Woojin managed to get there so quickly. Woojin calls out, these opponents are merely beasts. Using spear techniques meant for humans won't be effective. Chegod, however, is confused. How can Woojin be speaking so clearly from such a distance? As Woojin tells him to stay focused, a boar silently appears behind him, ready to attack. But Cheguk, without much effort, handles the threat swiftly, while Woojin calmly continues to observe. Woojin thinks to himself, Cheguk is the only one who truly appreciates my cooking. This is the least I can do to return the favor. He decides to share knowledge that no amount of wealth could ever buy, lessons far more valuable than gold. Still, Cheguk seems a bit annoyed. Woojin, after disappearing for a while, has now returned and started speaking casually but offering unsolicited advice. Meanwhile, the miners' leader observes the unfolding battle. He mutters, as usual, everyone charged into the mine. If Kim Cheguk defeats the wild boars, the iron will all be ours. But he also notes that Cheguk isn't performing quite as expected and wonders why. He recalls that Cheguk's disciple had left earlier, which adds to his confusion. From afar, Woojin offers Cheguk another correction, his tone calm but firm, saying that his center of gravity is too far off and that he is wasting unnecessary energy. Woojin's attitude irritates Cheguk with all the lecturing he is doing without lifting a finger. Woojin meticulously observes Cheg's every movement and tells him to use his body more efficiently, as he is expending too much energy with each spear strike. Looking more closely, Woojin realizes that Cheguk's movements are flashy but lack conciseness. Cheg grows increasingly furious at Woojin's attitude while he continues slicing the boars in half. Woojin reprimands Cheg once more, saying that he is moving excessively and putting too much emotion into his spear. Cheguk is already exhausted from the fight, and when he looks around, he sees himself surrounded by boars. He comments, they never end, but without injuries, I'm unsure how long I'll last. Woojin has assessed Cheguk's level and realizes that he is a slow learner. Woojin draws his sword and launches an attack from atop the mountain toward the boars. Cheg senses a considerable energy, and before he can react, a devastating attack covers the area, dealing massive damage to multiple boars. Cheg is astonished by Woojin's ability to unleash a sword attack from such a distance. He assumes Woojin might be rank S before he realizes it. Woojin is already beside him, confirming in his mind that Woojin's abilities are beyond comparison to his own. The miner watching comments that Chigup was struggling in the battle, but suddenly something happened. He believes that Chigup wiped out all the boars in an instant. The miner says he has worked with many rank B hunters in the past, but none were as impressive as Chigup. He surpassed them all, until the miner concludes that Chigup was hiding his true strength. Suddenly, a warning window appears for all three of them, informing them that the boss is enraged by the massacre of the boar herd. And then it appears. Chevik and Woojin are face to face with the boss of the Wasteland Dungeon. To show its fury, the boss let out a roar, creating a tense atmosphere in the area. As soon as Chigup realized the boss was about to attack, he shouted for Woojin to stay behind him. While Chigup was preparing, he declared that he wouldn't lose so easily this time. But just as the boar was about to strike, Woojin stepped in front, and he took it down with a single strike. Chuck stood frozen, watching everything unfold, unable to process what had just happened. As Woojin calmly sheathed his sword, Chuck murmured, I didn't even see you draw it. A nearby miner, who had also been watching, added, I didn't even see the spear move. Is that really possible? Then, in awe, He muttered. Kim Chiak. He might as well be a legend. The miner guessed that Chuck and his mentor must have trained in secret to avoid unwanted attention. Still, a nervous thought crept in. What if they noticed he had been watching everything? Worried about being discovered, he quietly slipped back into the cave to avoid trouble. He thought to himself that Chiak seemed like a selfless person, someone willing to put himself on the line for his disciple. But he also wondered, is he only that kind to his disciple? As the miner's presence faded, Wood noticed and commented, "That's a pity. I was planning to share a bit of my dish with him." He then remarked, unlike the skilled assassin earlier, the boss of this dungeon didn't drop any equipment. Meanwhile, the spirit girl smiled. She had managed to collect high-quality meat from the defeated dungeon boss. Woojin stated that a true cook must know how to satisfy the hungry and noted that the dungeon would close in 6 hours, warning that they couldn't waste time. Chuck lamented that they were broke this time due to the monster's drops. He assumed that Woojin would use the monster's internal core for cooking and speculated that it might have special effects like last time. But then, he also remembered that he would have to eat that horrible, disgusting food. Chigat reflected on how the boss's internal core was worth 300 million. He wondered whether he should experience a 300 million worth disgusting meal or quietly escape. He thought that the latter option seemed better, but it made no economic sense. So Chiak asked Woojin if they should just wait for the dungeon's exit to open. However, Woojin paid no attention and was only thinking about what kind of dish he could make with the boss's remains. As Woojin began cutting all of the boss's meat, Chuck observed that his knife skills were comparable to those in the manga. Therefore, Chegg wondered what kind of monstrous dish Woojin would create this time. Woojin then noticed that Chegg was watching him cook intently and asked, "Are you excited about my cooking?" Chuck replied with an ironic tone, tears in his eyes, "Yes, I was." The instructor asked Woojin, "Are you going to cook now?" Chuck mentioned that he had eaten grilled cactus earlier and still hadn't digested it. Woojin then said, "We need to stay here for another 6 hours." Chiga confirmed, "It's because the boss has appeared." Woojin added, "We'll remain here until dinner." That means Chigak has already missed lunch. While Chiga complained about the dungeon rules, the spirit girl asked Woojin, "Had you finished cutting the meat?" She then complimented his knife skills. Woojin asked the spirit girl for a frying pan to grill the meat and test its flavor. "I want to check if it's properly cooked before eating it," he explained. After finishing grilling the meat, Woojin wondered what it would taste like. As he chewed, he commented, "As expected from dungeon ingredients, the texture is quite different. It's crunchy and reminds me of fruit." Woojin didn't find anything particularly special about the meat aside from its crunchy texture, but he did enjoy its wild, meaty aroma. After reflecting for a moment, Woojin said it would be a great idea to make a pork dish called fried pork and sauce. The spirit girl was surprised by the idea of making fried pork and sauce, confident that it would turn out well, but she wondered how Woojin would manage to repair it. Woojin told the spirit girl, "You'll see for yourself," and asked for a steamer. He explained it's important to attach the cactus to the pork, place them in the steamer, and then add ingredients from my inventory. Chuck watched as Woojin added star anise and peppers to the food and assumed he was trying to make fried pork and sauce. Reflecting a little more, Cheguk thought that since Woojin was cooking actual meat this time, he couldn't possibly fail, even if it was Woojin making the dish. But soon, Chuck concluded that Woojin would fail again after seeing that he added cactus to the fried pork and sauce. "He's underestimating it," Chuck muttered. Woojin realized that simply steaming the cactus along with the meat wasn't enough. He came up with the idea of grilling both with iron ore. Thus, he concluded that the flavor of the meat would be doubled. Chuck grimaced. "The smell is horrible. How could the oil smell like rotten avocados?" Woojin commented, "After taking the grilled meat out, I'll add soy sauce and rice wine before cooking it further." The spirit girl starts yelling, saying she can't wait any longer after smelling that delicious aroma in the air. Woojin responds, "It will take at least 3 more hours." The spirit girl exclaims, "This is torture, having to endure that heavenly smell for so long." Cheguk, who is watching, notices that Woojin is enjoying himself. He decides to get some sleep while he cooks. Some time passes and the food is finally ready. Woojin decides to check its flavor. After tasting it, he says, "I added the boss's internal core, but it's milder than I expected." He pauses, then adds, "I'll compensate for the lack of flavor with the venom of queen bees." After that, he says that the food is almost ready. Meanwhile, Cheguk is having nightmares, seemingly about Woojin. The spirit girl notices that Cheguk is making strange movements in his sleep and wonders what he is dreaming about, as he looks very scared. Woojin says it's almost done, but we need to wait for the perfect moment to remove the pork. With his senses, Woojin decides that the right moment is now. He lifts the lid off the pot, releasing a massive cloud of steam. And there it is, the fully prepared pork. The notification windows from his cooking system appear, giving him details about the dish. Revealing that it is of A+ quality, Chigak wakes up in terror, screaming that Woon was trying to make him eat a beehive while crying. But Chuck snaps back to reality, thanking God that it was just a dream. He wonders if he would be in trouble if that had been real. However, after seeing the dish that Woon had prepared, he slaps himself in the face to wake up from the dream. But he feels the pain and realizes that this is not a dream. Woojin invites Chuck to eat while it's hot, and Chuck tells himself that he can never escape Woojin. Chuck tries to stay calm, telling himself that, despite the horrible taste, his stats always increased after eating, and this time would be no different. He remembers the last dish Wooey made for him and notes that this one looks much better. From Chigak's perspective, Woojin is emanating a terrifying aura. He thinks that if he doesn't eat, he will be killed. Once again, Chigak tells himself that since this time it's meat, it should be better than eating cactus. But as soon as he stabs the meat with his fork, he feels that it is crunchy and realizes that something is not right. He questions why the meat is making a crunchy sound when fried pork and sauce are supposed to have a soft texture. But he thinks to himself that there is no time to question it. He must eat to survive. Desperate, he puts a piece into his mouth, hoping it will have a special effect like last time. But he is immediately shocked by an extremely salty flavor. Check compares the meat, saying it's saltier than seawater, and wonders why the flavor is so intense despite one having added pepper. Check comments, it feels like having multiple boars in my mouth, and questions, why is it both crunchy and has the texture of spoiled jelly? After that, he compares this meal to a curse, the final curse of the Westland dungeon. But before all hope is lost, a notification appears for Check, stating that he has consumed the boss's internal core and that his overall health has increased by 4 levels. Another notification states that after consuming the boss's meat, his resistance has slightly increased. Chuck is astonished by his rising stats. He says, for a rank B, even increasing by 1 level is very difficult. Gaining resistance requires tremendous effort and a massive amount of money. Chuck concludes if this were made public, many hunters would gather there. But he also says there is a limit to all of this, because the taste is so horrendous that dying would be preferable. Outside the Wasteland dungeon, many people are waiting. One of them says, as expected, following Chigup was our best move. This young man says that for 3 years, he had been walking on eggshells and had no luck at all. But thanks to his career as a reporter, he began gaining recognition after obtaining an exclusive story about the Killer Bee dungeon. Many people commented that Chuck was skilled for having encountered dungeon bosses twice and wondered if he would be able to defeat this one as well. But suddenly, the portal entrance opened and someone stepped out. To everyone's surprise, it was one of the miners, saying that he thought he was going to die in there. As soon as the miner came out, he was shocked by the number of people waiting outside the portal. The reporter was surprised to see the miner emerge and tried to recall his name. After a moment, he remembered. The miner asked, "Why do you know my name?" Many excited reporters swarmed the miner, asking if he had seen King Check in the dungeon and what had happened inside. After being bombarded with questions about Chuck's safety, he told them to calm down. He would tell them exactly what he had seen inside the dungeon. Then he gave a report stating that he had seen King Chiat inside the dungeon and claimed that he was an A-rank hunter who had been hiding his true strength. So as soon as King Chuck and Jian stepped out of the portal, Chuck wondered why there were so many people there. Many news stories about Kimchi Guk were appearing on various news sites. Some users were ecstatic, saying that finally an S-rank hunter had appeared in their country and that Chegg was truly incredible. Each news headline was more sensational than the last, claiming that Chegg had cleared the dungeon alone and that he was among the top 1% of hunters. The reporters remained excited, asking Chegg what had happened inside the dungeon and if he had known in advance that a high-level boss would appear. Chuck asked them to calm down and to ask their questions one at a time because he would answer each one individually. Then he apologized, saying that some questions were difficult to answer at that moment. Chegg then began explaining the events of the dungeon to the reporters. Wayne noticed that Cheguk was incredible at answering the questions because he managed to dodge them like an art form. Chuck celebrated, proud that he had skillfully evaded the inquiries. He walked past the clueless interviewers, thinking that even if all this absurdity were true, he would never reveal it there. More questions kept coming at Chuck, but he said he understood how everyone felt. Cheon pointed out that during the dungeon exploration, he and his companion had been caught in an accident, but Wan demonstrated incredible control and helped them a lot. He added that without Woojin, it wouldn't have been easy to clear the dungeon. Chuck stated that as a temporary instructor, he had to be responsible for his students, but the reporters didn't understand what he meant by that last sentence. Then Chayak said that to protect Jin, he would end the interviews at that moment. Regarding Lai Cheongi, the director, there were 3 major events that changed his life in the demonic sect. The first was when he became a member of the demonic sect. The second was when he became a subordinate of the celestial demon of the sect. The number of experiences he had made him stronger. The former celestial demon asked him if he had ever thought that the dish for Joji could be better, but the celestial demon continued, suggesting that the dish would improve if it had a stronger aroma. After that, it would also taste better. And so the former celestial demon began frantically cooking the mysterious dish. Cheon was impressed to see that the celestial demon had managed to use martial arts in his daily life, which made him fascinating. The celestial demon finished his dish, saying, "I thought it would be better with cilantro and sea squirts." Cheon tasted the dish and said the peppers and cilantro are clashing, while the sea squirts balanced the flavors, questioning the strange taste. Then the former celestial demon asked, "How is it?" Chai thought that he couldn't disappoint him, since the dish had been made especially for him. So he responded enthusiastically, "It's absolutely perfect," thinking to himself that he should smile to avoid disappointing him. But after Chan said that the celestial demon's food was great, everything changed and he never stopped cooking. Over time, the destructive power of his dishes increased, leading to bolder creations like tofu with the pork aroma. The celestial demon kept seeking out Cheon to have him taste his dishes, but Cheon didn't like that one bit. Then one day, Cheon was determined to tell the celestial demon the truth, saying that his food wasn't good and asking him if he wanted to stop. But while Cheon was reflecting, the celestial demon found him and told him that he had prepared a dish of sarpor with seafood just for him. However, Cheon was already fed up with so many meals and moral dilemmas. One day, Cheon was deep in thought, realizing that it was already clear that the sect leader had surpassed even the deadly poisons of the Tang clan. If he continued eating his food, he would suffer severe losses in IQ. He thought to himself that he owed this favor to the celestial demon and didn't want to leave the sect, but it seemed that the heavens were testing him. Suddenly, Cheon had an idea and began to open a massive gate. He then decided to abandon his physical body and become immortal, thus transcending reality. He truly believed that the realm of immortals he had long aspired to was now before his eyes, but before it could become reality, a divine being judged Cheon as a scoundrel. The divine entity said that he would never become immortal and enter the realm after killing so many people. The divine entity banished Cheon forever from the divine realm. Suddenly, he was reborn on Earth as a baby, and in front of him was his mother feeding him. However, there was something he liked about that world. He said that the sushi there was of top quality. As he ate, he remembered the Southeast leader. Cheon reflected that there was no way Woojin could have defeated a ranked sea boss alone. But on the other hand, Woojin had inherited the martial arts of the Southeast master, so if he had properly forged them, he might be capable of doing it. Cheon wondered why Woojin was hiding his power, but decided to ask him when he came to his office. Suddenly, Woojin was there inside the director's office, bowing to him. The director told Woojin not to speak so formally and to feel more comfortable, as they were fellow alumni. As relaxed as always, the director asked why Woojin was so tense. He told him to speak casually, assuring him that he was an open-minded person. Cheon thought that children these days opened up more when an adult approached them and that they really lacked good manners. Cheon noticed that Woojin didn't seem curious about them being former classmates. He understood that it must be difficult to talk to someone older, even if he was curious, so he continued saying that he would explain things, step by step, starting with the martial arts he has learned. He states that the martial art he practices is called Blood Demon Arts, and that the founder of this martial art was known as the Blood Demon. The martial art that Woojin practices was founded by a person called the Celestial Demon. Cheon says that the Celestial Demon was a person with strong ideals and a power to realize them. The Blood Demon, who coincidentally met the Celestial Demon, was impressed by his ideals and offered to become his subordinate. Cheon continues. Cheon says that the path of the Celestial Demon was alluring, but the Blood Demon was more qualified. Meanwhile, Woojin was already growing tired of the conversation. Laughing heartily, Cheon says, "We were fellow alumni. Woojin, you should not try to compete with me." Wack comments, "The martial arts of the Celestial Demon granted enlightenment just by being witnessed, yet disciples still preferred the blood arts." Woojin, already exhausted from listening, thinks to himself that Cheon's statements are outrageous and almost too ridiculous to deal with. Then Cheon reveals, "Now that I am older, my curiosity has only grown. I would like to learn the martial arts of the Celestial Demon that you have mastered, Woojin." Cheon proposes to teach Woojin the Blood Demon arts in exchange for his knowledge, but feels he is at a disadvantage in the trade. At that moment, Woojin adopts a more serious demeanor and says, "I understand the absurdity of everything you've been saying. Your ultimate goal is clearly the Celestial Demon's martial arts." Woojin continues, "I understand the desire to obtain those martial arts, since it is something everyone in the Central Plains would love to have. But you are deceiving yourself, Cheon. You're romanticizing your past. This is a habit you must break." Then Woojin stands up, his presence shifting as he begins to emanate a dark aura. The atmosphere grows heavy with power. Cheon is terrified, feeling the immense strength radiating from Woojin. After a pause, Woojin reveals, "I recognize the director as Dui," causing the director to tremble in fear as he acknowledges the sect leader. Woojin then starts antagonizing Xiang, saying, "The blood demon arts are stronger than the celestial arts," even though not even he truly believes that. Cheon begins apologizing, "I never truly thought that way from the start. You've had to believe me, Woojin." But Woojin continues to intimidate him, his gaze unyielding, saying that was exactly what he had said. However, Cheon kept apologizing, saying that he had been tempted by the rumor of a book, that a fool had tried to deceive him, and that he was ready to accept his punishment. Cheon began begging for the sect master's forgiveness. Then Woojin calmed down and said that it was enough, as Cheon had recognized his mistake, and he would let it go this time. Cheon thanked the sect leader, but Woojin said that his previous behavior had been disrespectful. Now he needed to relax. Wan instructed Cheon to sit down so they could finish their conversation. Woojin mentioned that the blood demon had claimed he would ascend and disappear, and the director confirmed that he had been rejected by the immortals due to bad luck. Woojin recalled that the celestial deities had attributed 30% of his sins to the demonic cult and the rest to crimes against cooking. Woojin was so lost in thought that Cheon had to bring him back to reality. He then wondered what kind of memory he had just recalled. Woojin repeated that if Cheon hadn't lied, he wouldn't have revealed his identity. And once again, Cheon apologized, saying that 3 had blinded him. Woojin repeated that he would let it go and that he didn't want to talk about it anymore. Cheon noticed that Woojin was very satisfied with the current world and feared that he might dream of a world dominated by demons. After that, Woojin asked Cheon if he had free time to eat together and told him that he would cook for him. Cheon was completely shocked upon hearing that Woojin would cook for him. Rendered speechless, Cheon argued that the master's dishes should only be served to those who made contributions to the sect. Due to his sins, he shouldn't eat them. But Woojin responded, "This is only the case within the sect, and now we're in the Hunter Academy." Then Woojin enthusiastically exclaimed that his cooking skills had improved a lot since then, and that Cheon could look forward to it. Cheon complained that he had tried to ascend just to avoid one's food, but now he would have to eat it again. He wished that his companions, Huangmo or Chao, were there with him, so he wouldn't have to deal with this alone. But suddenly he remembered that the people from the sect who used to eat with him were no longer there, not even the elders who had taken over his home. Then he realized that he would have to deal with the sect master's cooking all by himself. He reflected that even if the master's cooking had improved, it only meant that his food had become even stranger and more terrible. Suddenly, a mysterious figure informed his servant that the killer bee and boar bosses they had been hunting had been defeated by Kim Chiak, a rank B. Then he decided to ask his servant, Park Sungjin, a question. He asked, "Do you think Kim Chiak is a skilled enough hunter to handle all of that?" The boy replied, "I don't think Kim Chiak is capable of such a feat, but he has some talent, though he's still just a rank at best." The man stated Kim Chiak only reached rank B with the support of the Zhu clan. He's not strong enough to attract the attention of the organization's higher-ups. The boy continued, even if Kim Chiak got lucky and managed to take down the boss, he wouldn't have had the necessary information to track it down in the first place. Then the man ordered, place Kim Chiak on the watch list. Monitor him closely and report any developments immediately. He added, everything is part of the Eclipse's grand plan, and then suddenly disappeared from the room. The boy who had been in the room was left tense and sweating as he added Kim Chi-guk to his watch list. At the Hunter Academy, Baek lamented that because of the Killer Bee incident, she wasn't able to go anywhere. Her father told her that it was dangerous outside, but she found it all to be excessive. Then she revealed that, in the first place, she had only joined the academy to escape her overprotective father. Whenever she got even the slightest injury, he would do everything possible to take care of her, immediately calling all available hunter doctors. Even a small scratch on her knee was enough for her father to make a big fuss. According to him, she would have to spend the rest of the afternoon at home recovering. Then Baek was reading the news about Kim Cheguk and was impressed. The article stated that Cheguk was actually a hidden rank A. Then she realized that over the weekend, Cheguk and Woojin had continued exploring low-level dungeons. She became irritated that she hadn't heard anything about it. She felt upset because they were a team, and neither of them even considered asking her. But she wondered why Shiak was so focused on Woojin when to her, Woojin seemed like just a diligent and ordinary hunter. She questioned whether Woojin was really his disciple or if he was just interested in his cooking. Supposing that this could be possible, she thought that after she had tasted his cooking, he might have been moved and was now searching for him. Baek remembered that that veal was unique. After all, it was the one that had revived her entire sense of taste. Recalling the sensation as if electricity was coursing through her tongue, she compared it to what people called delicious. Baek had tried all kinds of food, but had never experienced anything like that again. So she decided that she had to confirm it, determined to find Woojin and taste his cooking again. Then she said, "Whether I like it or not, Woojin is truly special." Suek observed Woojin in class while the professor explained that the more one ventured into dungeons, the more their mana increased. Baek noticed that Woojin was deeply focused on his studies. After that, she started running, realizing she was 20 minutes late for lunch. She remembered that since returning from the Killer Bee dungeon, all the questions directed at her had been significantly delayed. So she continued searching for Woojin at lunchtime. In the cafeteria, the students whispered, "Shook is right there," and that he was with Woojin, meaning the rumors were true. But they wondered why they were together. The students said that since Woojin was Kim Shik's disciple, it wasn't surprising that they were together. But considering Kim Shivek's personality, it was questionable. While she was eating Woojin's meal against his will, he told himself it was absolutely horrible. He said the steak had a bitter, spicy taste, and that his stomach hurt. Meanwhile, the students sitting near Woojin's table muttered that they should never get close to his table because of the awful smell. Then finally, Big Seal found Woojin at lunch. Woojin greeted her and asked if she was feeling better. She replied that she was and thanked him. Without wasting time, Woojin said he was happy to hear that and offered her a piece of his meal, which she gladly accepted. Chuck, already fed up with everything, just watched, questioning her sanity as she was about to eat Woojin's food. As she was about to take a bite, all the students eagerly awaited her reaction, and as soon as she tasted the meal, she entered a state of bliss, exclaiming that it was just as she expected. Woojin's food was simply delicious. Shook fell into complete shock, unable to comprehend why this was happening. Baek Seal made an observation, noting that the food this time was different. To her, it was a bit weaker. Trying to clarify, she said it was milder. She added that the food made in the Killer Bee dungeon had felt like it was stinging her tongue, whereas now it felt as if a pig was gently scratching her with its hooves. But she noticed that Chuck seemed to be enjoying it, so she assumed that it wasn't bad for everyone. It was just a matter of taste. Baekhyul stood up, thanked Woojin for the meal, and asked if he could cook for her again. He responded that he would. The students observed Baekhyul's actions, wondering if Woojin's food was really good since the whole scene looked like a crime scene. They then concluded that, seeing Kim Chuck devouring the food, it might not be so bad after all. After that, the spirit girl appeared, saying that there were more people who appreciated the chef's cooking. Woojin then said that this made him very happy. He recalled that in his past, many people loved his food, but none of them ever asked to eat it again. He remembered how unfortunate it was that, even though they savored his dishes, they were too intimidated by the celestial demon's reputation to utter a single word. He said that he was glad that wasn't the case in this reality, but suddenly he felt a different aura. Woojin noted that the person was hiding their aura extremely well. If he were an ordinary person, he wouldn't have noticed. Inside the gymnasium, Seongjun was training with a wooden sword. Woojin was impressed to see that he was once again training against virtual enemies. Watching carefully, Woojin noticed that the enemies Jun faced wielded spears, swords, bows, and much more. There were even beasts and monsters among them. Woojin made a comparison, saying that Jun was preparing for war, battling countless enemies all on his own. He commented that in the tutorial tower, he had only seen the end of his fight, but after watching him give it his all, things became much clearer. He finally realized that Seongjun's martial arts were incredible and impressive. Determined, Woojin decided to leave, thinking it was rude to watch someone train for too long. He resolved to head to the dormitory. But before that, the spirit girl told him to wait and look at something she found interesting. The spirit girl pointed to a poster about the Hunter tournament. Woojin had the impression that he'd heard about this tournament before, but couldn't remember where. He'd assumed he must have heard about it during a class. The Hunter tournament was exclusively for beginner hunters with less than a year of experience. It was held annually in different formats, making it popular among the general public. Hunters who performed well in the tournament had the chance to establish their value in the market and gain fame. The ultimate reward was eligibility to compete in the World Hunter Tournament. In Korea, only the top 4 competitors received this opportunity. Woojin commented that he was impressed with the rewards, but he had no interest in participating. The spirit girl noticed that among the prizes there was something called mandar, which caught Woojin's attention. Woojin said, "I've heard that it's a rare plant with a great reputation." The spirit girl added, "It's a mystical plant." She continued, "A 10-year-old mandar is delicious, even when eaten raw," and Woojin reflected on its flavor. She stated, "Without a doubt, mandar is incredible in every way, even in its aroma. No other plant can compare to it." Mandar was slightly bitter and enhanced flavors, making it perfect for any dish, even grilled, and it could even serve as a main course for dinner. Woojin revealed that he would not participate in this tournament. The spirit girl questioned him, saying, "You have the skills to reach the top." Woojin replied, "Those at the top have responsibilities. I don't want to lose my cooking time." He added, "The tournament is a major event that will bring a lot of attention to me. I prefer to keep cooking without unnecessary trouble." The spirit girl said, "You're solemnly devoted to cooking. You seem like a monk." Even though she already knew this, she became emotional. Suddenly, Woojin received a call from Guak Chingin. "Is the sect leader available to talk?" Chingin asked. Woojin responded, "What's wrong?" Guak said, "I have important matters to discuss with you. If you have time, I'll stop by your room." Woojin was infuriated. "You don't understand the rules of this world," he said. "If you come to my room, they'll seem very strange to others." So Woojin decided he would meet Guaki himself. "I'll bring food to you around dinner and meet you in person," he added. Upon hearing this, Waiki panicked, but before he could say anything, Woojin hung up the phone. He could hear Guasi shouting from the building next door and assumed that he was simply thrilled by the food, making a bit of a scene out of excitement. At dinner, Woojin told Xian that after careful consideration, he imbalanced the flavors of the dish he brought back from the Killer Bee dungeon by adding a touch of mint. Upon tasting the meal, Waki commented, "It brings back intense memories, like moments from battles long past." Woojin then turned to Guak and asked, "Are you enjoying it?" Guak replied with enthusiasm, "It's amazing. Definitely a dish worthy of the Southeast leader." After they finished eating, Woojin said, "Let's get to the point and ask what Guak wanted to discuss." Guasi asked, "Have you seen the notice boards around the academy lately?" Woojin responded immediately, "You mean the tournament?" Guak nodded. "Yes, that's the one. The academy hasn't had any notable results in the last 10 years. Woojin could already guess where this was going. Chien bowed politely and asked, "Woojin, would you consider entering the tournament to help raise the academy's reputation?" Woojin declined without hesitation, leaving Guak a bit stunned. He answered simply, "I've dedicated my life to cooking. That's my path." While Guak thought that if Mandarin was one of the prizes, Woojin might be interested, Jin said, "If there's nothing else to discuss, I'll be leaving." But Guak insisted, "I can't give up so easily." He added that bringing Kim Chae-guk to the academy had already significantly boosted its status. Guak thought that if the academy performed well in the championship, the bureaucrats wouldn't be able to say anything until his retirement. He reflected that Big Seal participating in the tournament would yield good results, but a single mistake could change everything. Gawa concluded that if the second master were in the tournament, there would be no way for him to lose. He then tried to think of a way to bring him into the tournament, especially since not even the Mandarin had piqued his interest. Goak turned to Jin and said, "I have an offer you won't be able to refuse. Are you willing to listen?" Goak continued, "The dormitory has a shared kitchen. It's old and cramped. You must have particularly noticed this." Jin, already losing patience, told Goak, "Get to the point." Then Goak said, "If you participate in the tournament and achieve good results, I'll build a private kitchen for you inside the academy." Jin is surprised by the offer and says, "This conversation isn't just empty talk. It's actually an intriguing proposal." Goak waits for his response. However, Jin adds the offer is still not good enough. Suddenly, a news report appears on the TV announcing that a guild has cleared a dungeon and recovered an artifact. This artifact is set to be auctioned. Jin sees the artifact, called the Fire Hammer, and says, "I would very much like to have that." Goak is startled by Jin's request. "An artifact from a Ranky dungeon is worth hundreds of millions," he says. "It makes no sense for you, Jin, who has no ambitions, to desire such a thing." But Jin's real reason is simple. He thinks the hammer would be perfect for cracking nuts. The academy students are confused. They had been summoned to the gymnasium that morning without any explanation. Suddenly, Goak appears, telling everyone to be quiet. Wood and his team stand behind him, causing even more curiosity among the students about what is happening. Then Goak begins. Everyone here is an aspiring hunter. He continues, "You must all be aware that the hunter tournament will begin in 2 months." While the teachers wondered why Goak was in such a good mood, Goak went on explaining that each organization could send 4 participants to the tournament. Every year, the academy conducted a rigorous selection process for these 4 members. However, this year he announced that 2 students had been chosen without any tests, Baekseola and Cheon Woojin. Explaining the situation, Goak stated that Baek had proven herself in the Killer Bee dungeon, while Woojin had left his mark on both the Killer Bee dungeon and the Wild Boar dungeon. He mentioned that Chiuk could testify better than him about this. So Kim Chiuk stepped onto the stage to address everyone. Just moments earlier, Chiuk had been lamenting on the bench, wondering what he had done to deserve going through this. In Goak's office, she was questioned about whether his achievements were truly genuine, but Goak quickly clarified that it was actually Woojin who was behind it all. However, Goak said he'd keep his mouth shut, but only under one condition. That condition was that Cheok had to stand before the students and explain what had happened in the dungeon and why Baek and Woojin were being sent to the tournament. So on stage, Cheok stated that he didn't know much about the academy, but he could vouch for the abilities of Baekhyulha and the student Chi and Woojin. The students questioned the director's decision, while Cheok thought that if Baek had never entered the academy, he wouldn't be in this situation, not even for a fortune. In the director's office, Cheok noticed that something was off when he realized that the director used honorifics when speaking about Woojin. He wondered how that was even possible. Using honorifics for a student, in what world would that make sense? But after this statement, Cheok was startled when he was suddenly approached by a reporter. The reporter apologized for scaring him and introduced himself. "I'm Kwon Jong-jin, a reporter from the Hunter Division." Cheok recognized him immediately. This was the same reporter he had encountered at the Wild Boar Portal, the one who had been in a terrible mood that day. He wondered why he was here now. Cheok thanked the reporter for his interest, but criticized him, saying showing up unannounced is irritating. However, the reporter had something very important to ask. He then asked Cheok, "Did you really recommend Chi and Woojin to represent the academy in the tournament?" Cheok was shocked and asked, "Where did you hear about that?" The reporter responded, "The news spread rapidly on the Academy Hunters social network. People are saying Chiak abused his authority to let his disciple enter. But Chiak clearly didn't consider Woojin his disciple." Chiak became frustrated upon realizing that the information had already gone viral on social media. "This can't be ignored," he muttered. "I officially recommended Woojin." Suddenly, Chiak snapped back to reality, remembering that one of the tournament prizes was a mandrake. He concluded Woojin's only thinking about cooking as expected. Feeling relieved, Chiak thought to himself that if Woojin was after the mandrake, he would definitely place in the top 4. Chiak then openly told the reporter, "Yes, I recommended Woojin." In a slightly threatening tone, he added, "But Woojin didn't enter the tournament because of me." Soon, news broke that Chiak's disciple, Woojin, was participating in the tournament. This led to a flood of negative comments, with people questioning who he was and whether the decision was an overstatement. More articles emerged, speculating that Woojin might actually be a hunter capable of reaching the top 4. Chiak and his disciple were fully focused on their training. Meanwhile, Woojin was being introduced to the place that would become his new kitchen. Gowaki asked him if he liked it. Woojin said, "It's fine," while thinking to himself that after seeing all this, there was no way he could refuse to participate now. Gowaki asked what changes Woojin would like for the interior of the kitchen. Woojin replied, "I'll think about it and answer later." Gowaki thought that, considering the glory the sect leader would bring to the academy, all this investment made sense. He concluded that no one would be a match for the sect leader, and that the opponents were nothing more than beginners, making victory a certainty. Then, Gowaki remembered that the only missing item was the hammer that was being auctioned. He had to obtain it for the sake of the kitchen renovation. So, Gowaki promised Woojin that he would acquire the fire hammer and do whatever it took to win the bid, no matter what. Woojin said, "Everything is set. I need to leave now. I have a class to attend." At that moment, students were discussing Woojin's cooking, speculating that it could actually enhance stats when consumed. While the spirit girl listened, feeling upset and furious, she commented, "People are being rude and should show more respect for the chef's food because, in the end, the most important thing is the taste." Woojin and the spirit girl headed to the gym. Upon arrival, the instructor said, "The last class was theoretical, but today's will be practical. It will be a weapons training class. Those who already have experience with a specific weapon should use it. For those without, I recommend spears or blunt weapons." Suhan declared, "I'll use my fists to practice boxing." The instructor acknowledged, "You'll do well, Suhan. Your build has changed." Woojin picked up a spear for training. The instructor took note and commented, "Expected from Kimchi Guk's disciple." Cyan observed Woojin, thinking, asterisk, it makes no sense for a swordsman, someone who can cut down dungeon bosses with a single strike, to be using a spear, asterisk. He reflected on how he had been watching Woojin since the beginning, but still couldn't figure out his true identity. The only thing he had learned about Woojin was that he was extremely dedicated to cooking, always using dungeon monster ingredients in his meals. Cyan noted that the spirit girl ate Woojin's food with delight, and since she was from a Grimoire, she must have high standards. This meant that Woojin had real talent in cooking. However, Cyan suddenly recalled the terrible memory of tasting the last meal Woojin had made for him. That made him realize that Woojin had no talent at all. He thought to himself that he had eaten all kinds of food just to survive, but compared to Woojin's cooking, everything else tasted delicious. Cyan wondered why Woojin had become Kimchi's disciple, but noted that he had known about Cheok even before his regression. Until then, Cheok had only been a rank B hunter, recognized by the public as a high-ranked hunter, but never acknowledged by top-tier hunters. Sang stated that even if Chiak had dodged the Slime King's attacks, the result wouldn't have been much different. The dungeon bosses that Chiak had been encountering were being taken down by Woojin, yet he couldn't understand why Chiak was getting all the credit. Sang thought that Woojin was trying to stay out of the control of the top-ranking hunters, but soon realized that Woojin was capable, overpowering most high-ranking hunters. He quickly considered that Woojin was, at the very least, rank A and most likely even higher, potentially rank S or above. Xianjun concluded that he should continue keeping an eye on Woojin. But at that moment, something even more important was on his mind. The Stern auction would open in 2 days. If it happened, as it did before his regression, a tragedy would occur there. He must prevent this as soon as possible. Xianjun starts by saying, I initially thought it was just a bandit attack on the auction, but over time, I realized that the group called Eclipse was also involved. He notes that the bodies found at the auction were mummified by the spell they used. Thus, Xianjun concludes that he had already recovered from the injuries sustained in the fight against the Slime King. He cannot just sit and wait. Woojin, who was beside Shan, reflects holding a spear reminds me of an old comrade, someone completely dedicated to the art of the spear. He was referring to the spear demon, Zhang Yang. Woojin adds, I tried to help him break his stubborn habits, but he was as inflexible as his weapon. As Woojin attacks the mannequin using the 7 demon dragon techniques, they recall that Shan Yang could have become a true dragon if not for his bad habits. The students watching Woojin noticed that despite all the exaggerated movements, he couldn't do anything particularly special. He seemed like an ordinary person. Shanjian said, the students are foolish for not seeing the truth behind Woojin. Shanjian continued, while the students might have thought Woojin was just stabbing randomly, I'm sure that Woojin was wielding the spear with all his heart. He added, Woojin's strike could even pierce dimensions. He is not just an expert swordsman, but also a master of spears. This made him wonder what exactly was Woojin. One of the instructors warned Songjun for dozing off during training, expressing disappointment. The Stern Guild was the 5th largest guild, alongside Samju and Chianik, which represented South Korea. The Chianik and Samjodo guilds symbolized South Korea's military power, while Stern represented financial power. This included manufacturing, support, security, and even entertainment, utilizing famous hunters. It was often said that if one wanted to make money in Korea, the easiest way was through Stern. The most representative business of Stern was its auction house. Despite irregular schedules and a 500 million entry fee, hunters still turned to the auction as it displayed highly reliable items. Due to the multi-million transactions, B-rank and A-rank hunters were responsible for the venue's security. That night, Woojin and his old servant Wax stood in front of the auction house. Wax said, everything will go smoothly. Auctions are often surprisingly tedious. Woojin remarked, opportunities to see rare items are uncommon. I enjoy watching auctions from time to time. After that, Whack told Woojin, put on a mask. Whack explained there was once a hunter who, after losing a bid, assassinated the winner. Since then, only anonymous entry with masks has been permitted. Woojin understood the reasoning and noted, this proves they can't fully guarantee the safety of the participants while enforcing the rules. The two proceeded into the auction house. Upon reaching the entrance, a security guard has to see their identification bracelets. The security guard confirmed their entry and stated, the auction will be conducted via tablet. Let you know if you need any assistance. They replied that they did not. The doors opened and the guards thanked them for their visit, wishing them an enjoyable stay inside. Inside the auction house, Woojin noticed that everyone was wearing masks. As Goak and Woon took their seats, the auctioneer thanked the visitors for attending. On stage, the auctioneer announced, now that everyone is present, I will begin the auction by revealing the first item. It was a strand of hair from the snow giant, the Yeti, with an initial bid of 100 million won. Meanwhile, Whack asked Woojin, do you remember the instructions regarding the tablet? Whack explained that information about the current item was displayed on the screen, allowing bids to be placed using the tablet. Yeti hair could be used as a trap to hunt other Yetis, and when mixed with potion ingredients, it could aid in hair growth. Realizing this, Whack placed his bid, saying, the effects of Yeti hair are incredible. The auctioneer then announced the Yeti strand has reached 7.8 billion won in bids and has been sold, as there are no further offers. The next item was about to be presented. While Goak lamented that his bid had only been 500 million, Woojin was excited, observing that there were many tempting items. It was announced that the next item was a wyvern wing bone, which was extremely rare to find in good condition. Woojin says, adamantium would be great for kitchen knives and divine items, and sandalwood would be excellent for a cutting board. He realizes that he's being too greedy and thinks that if he continues like this, he might lose what he already has. And so, The next item is announced, the Agne's Nest Hammer, an unidentified item from an A-rank dungeon with an initial bid of 1 billion. Whack and Woojin pay close attention when it is announced, and Woojin says, "Seeing the hammer in person makes my heart race." The two nod to each other, and Goak places his bid of 1 billion, saying it might end at that price. Goak reflects that most unidentified items have an 80% chance of having terrible stats. These items are not popular because they cannot be identified, and there have even been absurd cases where an item turned out to be cursed, causing the user's death. But in rare cases, they might also have incredible abilities, which is why guilds have appraisers researching them. The auctioneer announces that the item has already reached bids of 2.25 billion. Woojin thinks that this item, which Korea cannot identify, could be a divine weapon with incredible power, but Goak panics when he hears that the item has already reached a bid of 6.8 billion. With great pain, Goak makes his final bid, offering 10.2 billion. The auctioneer announces that the hammer has been sold. Feeling down after acquiring the item, Goak hits the idea to ask Woojin if he would consider going into a dungeon with him, as it would be very profitable. But Woojin argues that doing so would make his name known to the public, and he would like to dedicate his life solely to. At that moment, the auctioneer announces that he will reveal the main item of the auction, awaited by most of the attendees. That item was an epic weapon called the Prison of Fire, obtained from an A-rank boss. Goak notices that this weapon was imbued with mana and fire resistance, and with the special ability to convert mana into fire, they could freely control the flames. That item was truly worthy of its title, and would certainly be valued in the hundreds of billions. The auctioneer announces that the first bid was 10.5 billion, and it quickly reached 11 billion. Many bids were placed on that item, and it was eventually sold for 56 billion. Whack limits, saying he was lucky to have at least gotten the hammer. The auctioneer announces the final item, a scroll found in the Agne's Nest with an initial bid of 100 million. Wax says that the hammer was made of mithril, so its value was understandable, but the scroll was being sold for an incredibly low price. But as he reflects, Whack notices something strange coming from behind and thinks it is just the wind. And suddenly, an explosion occurs in the middle of the auction. Two mysterious figures appear. One of them says, "Remember only the people who are permitted to be used as sacrifices." His companion complies with the order given by Nahimoth, and they declare that they will begin. As soon as the explosion happens, the auctioneer panics and quickly calls the guards. Whack quickly realizes that they are under attack. One of the attacking figures chants a spell in an unknown language, causing the people on the stage to kneel. The man says the spell is ready. The girl asks, "Do you remember what we came to retrieve?" The two then head toward the stage, saying they only need to take the scroll. The girl mentions it was the scroll, and just one more item. But suddenly, Hunter Park Daejun rushes at the intruders, attacking with his fists. The woman easily dodges the attack and comments, "Judging by your movements, you have strong resistance to magic." Then she counterattacks, saying everything else is pathetic. The invaders state sacrifices are best when they are in good condition. We should make an excellent sacrifice in this state. The girl acknowledges this, saying, "That's why I only touched the hunter's head." Woojin watches and comments, "Their techniques are interesting. I'd like to observe them more." Whack notices Woojin's interest in the invaders, thinking that they should remain still since the security guards would arrive soon. The woman's ally wonders, "Why do we need so many sacrifices?" While she tells him, "Just focus on the mission." But suddenly, the invaders are surrounded by several guards wielding katanas who order them not to move. The man tells the girl, "You were foolish for not stopping." She responds, "Once we return, I'll kill you." Thus, the girl dashes forward swiftly, attacking the guards while the man uses his dark magic to subdue the security personnel. Woojin observes, noting, compared to the academy students, the invaders were on a completely different level. They drew mana directly from their hearts. He also noticed that the dark aura was different from the absorption technique, which had clear limitations regarding the caster's capabilities. Looking at the woman, one remarked, "I've never seen such a malevolent energy emanating from someone. It's as if she was sorrow given human form." The dark man told the girl, "You should have held back to maintain the quality of the sacrifices." But she retorted, "You've been no different." The man then concluded, "All we need to do is retrieve the scroll and the hammer." As soon as Whack heard that they were after the items, he became agitated. Woojin rose from his seat and declared, "I'll take care of this." Whack was surprised to see that the sect leader was going to intervene in the situation, so he simply acknowledged the message. Turning to one of the staff members, Whack ordered them, "Gather the people and evacuate them quickly." As Woojin walked toward the intruders, Whack commented, "They're the unluckiest people in the world for provoking the wrath of the sect leader." Irritated, Woojin stated, "I didn't want to pay attention to this, but it's been a long time since the fool dared to covet what's mine." He added that he regretted the lives that had been lost, but in the end, it was simply due to their lack of strength. The dark man was surprised that Woojun was moving without any detectable energy and concluded that he was far too confident. Rushing straight to his own demise, the girl told her app to focus on preparing the ritual and that she would handle Woojun. Woojun and his opponent locked eyes. In the blink of an eye, the girl teleported behind Woojun, ready to strike. However, Woojun effortlessly defended himself, causing the girl to panic as she couldn't sense any aura from him, leaving her utterly confused. Disgusting, Woojun exclaimed as he stopped the girl's attack with his hands, forcing her to retreat. Herat mocked the girl, saying that her strength lay in her lack of mercy, while she explained that Woojun was far stronger than she had anticipated. The girl charged again, launching another flurry of attacks at Woojun, who continued blocking every single one with ease. Terrified, the invader wondered where Woojun had come from, as he was too skilled. It meant she would have to use impurity. Suddenly, the woman's body began to emit a dark aura, and her eyes were consumed by black flames. Observing this, Harap remarked, "For her to resort to that power, this is no longer a game. I'll have to join the fight." A dark spell was launched from behind Woojun by Harap, but Woojun had no difficulty defending against it with just his bare hands. Harap panicked upon seeing that his attack had been stopped effortlessly, even though it was meant to drain power from negative emotions. The girl explained, "Among the powers of impurity, I possess the power of despair, which corrupts both the body and mind of my opponents." Her app watched in horror, unable to comprehend the situation, as Woojun remarked, "Our attacks are on a different level compared to Neymat." Losing his patience, Woojun delivered a powerful strike to Neymat's abdomen, sending her flying across the battlefield. Breaking into a cold sweat, Harriet muttered, "According to the information I had, there shouldn't have been a master of this level at the auction. This is becoming a real problem." He then began chanting a dark spell in an unknown language, but he couldn't understand why Woojun wasn't attacking him. Woojun, on the other hand, reflected that he wanted to see more of his opponent's abilities, but it simply wasn't possible. Every time he came into contact with that energy, he felt disgusted. Harap was still overwhelmed with doubts about Woojun until sheer terror struck him when Woojun finally decided to act. Woojun had drawn the incredible spear of the fire prisoner, stating that he saw no problem in borrowing it for a while. Woojun was impressed as the spear truly ignited into flames just as described, concluding that it was an incredible weapon. Stunned by the situation, Harap muttered, "The flames of the spear should have been red," yet in Woojun's hands they had turned crimson. Whack was satisfied to see Woojun wielding the spear, commenting, "Now he finally looks serious." Meanwhile, Woojun, standing in a menacing stance, declared, "I will attack." And like the wind, Woojun shot forward, completely ignoring Harap and heading straight for Neymat. As he struck the woman repeatedly using Chivek techniques, Woojun reflected that he should go easy on her. There was much he needed to ask. Neiman recognized the technique in question. What is a member of the Jujongmeon family doing in this place? But still pressing the woman, Woojun told her, "Shut up. I'm the only one who will be asking questions." And then he questioned her objectives. Suddenly, Nahameth steps back and says she is fed up with this. She tells Woojun to stop playing around. She realizes that Woojun has been effortlessly blocking all of her attacks and that his spear strikes are becoming sharper. Hara prepares another spell while saying that Woojun shouldn't dare challenge them and that he is just trying to act tough. Nit says that she used to think the spiral spear had many flaws, but that was only because of Chivek's flashy fighting style. She then acknowledges that the true nature of the spear is delivering dozens of solemn, precise ice slashes to eliminate an opponent. Before Neymar can react, she is struck by multiple spear slashes. Even after the attack, she remains standing as he asks if she is alright. She tells Harap to prepare the bottomless pit while she buys time for him. Harap argues that it would be better for them to retreat and see what happens, but Neiman insists that if they retreat after failing the mission, the organization will not let them go. After hearing her reasoning, Harap agrees with her and begins chanting a new spell, enveloping Nint's body in darkness. Woojun touches without any fear. Commenting that now they have decided to take action, Amma suddenly begins to transform. Merging with the darkness, she takes on a new form with 6 arms. She then promises, "Woojun, you will not have a pleasant death." Woojun realizes that she has wrapped her body in a black protective aura. She charges at him, attacking with her dark fists. Despite this, Woojun easily continues parrying her blows with his spear. He reflects that Na's physical abilities have increased significantly. However, she is just moving recklessly like a raging bull. After that, Woojun kicks Hamath away. "Your attacks make no sense," he says. Now enraged, Hamath exclaims, "Even after using all of my power and activating the Yaksha Temple, I still can't land a clean hit on you." Woojun tells her, "Your fundamentals are weak, but you have great control over your energy. I'll give you credit for that." Upon hearing this, she becomes deeply furious. "Woojun, your arrogance knows no bounds. I will tear you apart completely." She quickly charges at him again, using her wild dance technique. But Woojin continues to carry all of her attacks with his spear. Then, without any effort, Woojin pierces through Nahime with a clean strike, leaving her in disbelief. Woojin declares Nibit's power is pathetic. With only your energy control, you will never be able to defeat me. But suddenly, Harap shouts at Mutt, enough. Everything is ready to activate the bottomless pit. Black walls emerge surrounding Woojin, while Nahime smirks maliciously. She tells him, you will regret being so arrogant. And with that, Woojin is completely trapped in the darkness of the bottomless pit. Harap states, this is my unique technique which drains the opponent's power and confuses their senses, a technique I have devoted my entire life to perfecting. I am certain that no matter how strong the hunter is, as long as they are inside the bottomless pit, they have no chance of escape. Yaim appears behind Woojin, whispering in his ear, are you having trouble? You've suddenly gone silent. After that, she attacks with all of her fury, but Woojin dodges with ease, saying, this new power is worse than impurity. Woojin states, even with my senses sealed, it's easy to protect myself by sensing the enemy's strong energy. But what is truly troublesome is the space itself. That space is designed to drain the life force of anyone inside, consuming Woojin's strength like a voracious ghost. Reflecting on the situation, Woojin concludes that this spell is so malicious that even highly skilled individuals would struggle to handle it. But suddenly, he is struck by an attack. And argues before, Woojin was just acting arrogantly, but now he has started to react. She continues, the longer someone stays in the bottomless pit, the more exhausted they become. Then she asks, will he succumb? Come to the pit or to my hands? But before Nana can continue speaking, Woojin is already in front of her. You're crazy, he tells her. Losing his patience, Woojin pierces through her body with the flame spear. Shut up, he says. Harap, upon seeing Namat defeated by Woojin, falls into complete despair. He cannot believe that Namat was defeated after being strengthened by the bottomless pit in just a single strike. Harap questions why isn't Woojin being affected by the bottomless pit? He should have turned into a mummy long ago. Then, Harap realizes that Win still has plenty of energy. And suddenly, Win realized that Woojin was attempting to destroy the bottomless pit. Frustrated and alarmed, Harap shouted, that's my life's work. My unique technique, the result of years of research. There's no way Woojin could dismantle it. But as Win gripped his spear, he felt his old companion, John Haeng, the one who had always stood beside him, shielding him with unwavering resolve. Back in the present, Woojin quietly said, even though John Haeng is no longer with us, his strength lives on through this spear. Growing more desperate, Harap lashed out with a flurry of shadow attacks, striking wildly in all directions. Then Woojin stepped forward and calmly declared, I will now unleash the sudden form of the dragon flame technique. In an instant, a colossal dragon of fire erupted from his energy, tearing through the darkness that surrounded the bottomless pit. In the blink of an eye, Woojin appeared before Harap, meeting his gaze directly. Is that all you've got? He asked. If you have nothing more, I'll end this now. Harap stood frozen in fear, unable to respond. Woojin stepped forward and added, this is the end of the road for you. Speak, who are you really, and what are you after? Instead of answering, Harap, overwhelmed and unraveling, turned inward, whispering a desperate plea, calling out for help from the chaotic powers he believed in, begging for strength and salvation. He continued chanting incantations in another language until a dark power began to emanate from his body. He then thanked his god for answering his call and declared that he would offer his entire soul to his master. However, before he could do anything, that power began consuming his body, making him lose control. Woojin, observing, remarked that, unlike Name's transformation, this one had completely changed the atmosphere. The ritual was complete. The god of chaos had already taken over Harap's body, declaring that he had been watching the efforts of this mortal consumed by darkness. The Lord of Chaos introduced himself, saying that he would carry out the grand plan for this world, but Woojin only wondered what had happened to Harap. Then the Lord of Chaos noticed that Woojin remained incredibly calm in his presence and stated that it was worth coming there in person. After that, the Lord of Chaos said that if Woojin swore loyalty to Eclipse, he would personally grant him power. But Woojin quickly refused, saying that he had no interest in such things in his current life. Enraged, the Lord of Chaos declared that he would make Woojin submit by force, launching an attack with his darkness. However, before he could act, Woojin drove his spear into the Lord of Chaos' chest with immense crimson flames. The Lord of Chaos understood that Woojin had chosen to reject his grace with his mortal body. As his life faded away, he stated, I want to see if you will remain so calm the next time we meet. With that, all the evil in the area dissipated. Whack offered his prayers, saying, may the celestial demon reign for years and may all submit to him. Afterward, Woojin asked Whack if he had ever heard of the Lord of Chaos. Guak said, no one asked if he should invest. Woojin decided he would investigate on his own. He lamented that he had encountered the Lord of Chaos, but had not uncovered his true objectives. He reflected that they had invaded the auction to use people for some sort of sacrifice, but he did not yet know the source of their power or the true grand plan of the Lord of Chaos. Before it was too late, Woon said, "I need to leave before people arrive," though he intended to investigate this matter gradually. The incident at the auction house became a hot topic on social media for several days. There were reports about the death of the indestructible part, Tunin of Hangi, and many questions arose about the identity of the auction's hero, the Masked Lancer. Cyan, reading the news, remarked that the future had been changed once again. The auction had been attacked by Namut and the life-stealing Harab, both of whom were key figures in the mystery of Eclipse. Sang-jun reflected that even before the regression they had already been powerful enemies, ones he had no chance against. Now he wondered who had managed to defeat them. Scene infiltrated the auction disguised as a guard to minimize the damage. While patrolling, he planted artifacts to interfere with the enemy's magic. During this process, he also eliminated various dark enemies who could have become formidable threats in the future. Additionally, he secretly swapped the auction scroll with a fake one. Seen-jun was satisfied with his achievements, but he still couldn't accept that someone was capable of eliminating the two strongest individuals at that auction. The Masked Lancer, who was captured by the cameras, was clearly using the spiral spear, and the media claimed that his identity was Chuck. But Cyan commented that the Cha-Guk he knew wouldn't last even 2 minutes against those two opponents. So he continues to ponder who the masked man who stole the spotlight could be. He even considers the possibility that it might be Woojun. However, he concludes that with Woojun's obsession with cooking, he wouldn't have been there. He also wouldn't have any reason to use the spiral spear technique since he was much stronger than that. But suddenly, Seon-jan realizes that Kimchi Guk never surpassed rank B. That was only before the regression. Now, he seemed different, proactively defeating the Eclipse bosses as if he knew every move of Eclipse before it even happened. After this, Seon-jan concludes that Chia must also be a regressor. Next, Woojun is shown cooking for the spirit girl. She comments that his meat dish has a rich aroma and is far better than she expected. Woojun transfers the broth to another pot, and the spirit girl asks if he is finished. He replies that there is still one important step left. Suddenly, he wields the hammer he acquired at the auction, saying that it was all he needed for the next step. He praises the hammer, highlighting its good weight and comfortable grip, even suggesting that if the handle were extended, it could be used as a rice cake hammer. But he adds that for today's dish, they would focus solely on the bones, the wild boar bone stew. Woojun begins hammering the bones like a madman, reflecting that by crushing them, he would create a more concentrated broth and improve the texture. He vividly remembers his past life when his disciples praised the crispy texture of his broth. After this, he tells himself that he should finish quickly so he can serve the food. But suddenly, status windows appear before him. The notifications state that the conditions have been met and that the unidentified spirit is awakening, causing the item to resonate. The spirit girl and Woojun are both confused by the notifications when suddenly a voice emerges from the hammer shouting, "No." The spirit within the hammer yells that Woojun boiled the perfect material for bone powder and even ground it down, calling him ignorant and demanding an apology immediately. But Woojun is completely confused, unable to comprehend the situation. The spirit girl is offended when the hammer spirit accuses them of ignorance for enhancing the flavor, while Woojun simply asks, "Who are you?" The hammer spirit is shocked. "You call this cooking?" exclaims. But Woojun continues to press him for answers until he finally decides to speak. He reveals himself as Schmidt, the emperor who once led the Black Hammer Empire, and a genius blacksmith. However, Woojun doesn't care and resumes hammering the bones. Schmidt panics, saying in situations like this that there should be more dialogue. The spirit girl responds, "That isn't necessary," and continues, "You are strange." She insults Schmidt further while he retorts, "You're just a tiny insect." Suddenly, Woojun begins emanating a sinister aura, telling them both, "Shut up." Schmidt feels oppressed, thinking that opposing him might lead to annihilation. The blacksmith states it has been 700 years since I last forged a supreme weapon that would go down in history. He cries as he recounts how he died while creating his masterpiece and was reincarnated into that hammer. However, he declares, "Woojun, you have the potential to surpass me as a blacksmith." He urges him, "Hurry, walk the path of a craftsman." But Woojun quickly refuses, saying, "I will live solely as a chef." The blacksmith insists, "You're wasting your innate talent." Schmidt panics as he watches Woojun shatter the bones, explaining, "At the very least, you could have made dwarven armor out of them." The spirit girl argues that uneaten food is more tragic than unrealized dreams. And so, Woojun finishes his high-quality A-rank broken bone soup. Afterward, Woojin opens his inventory with the intention of storing the blacksmith inside, causing Schmidt to fall into complete despair. Sealbake tastes the food and says it is as delicious as always. Woojin's system alerts him that he has completed the daily missions for an entire week, unlocking the main quest. The protagonist boards a bus, reflecting that it had been a long time since he last returned home. The spirit girl remarked, "I thought we were going to complete the main mission." But Woojin said, "I haven't been home since joining the academy." Woojin reflected that even after regaining his memories from his past life, there were things deeply ingrained in this body. Family was as precious to him as cooking. Now they could finally proceed with the main mission, which aimed to create a dish rated B or higher. Woojin wondered what the dungeon pepper was among the rewards, and the spirit girl explained that it was a pepper from a legendary dungeon that housed various types of peppers. She said it was a dungeon specialized in culinary ingredients. The end. Created by the very person who had made her, he was a chef who recorded countless recipes in his Grimoire, all of which were exceptional. He could not be compared to anyone else. Woojin was excited to improve his skills and asked, "What determines a dish's rating?" The spirit girl explained the rating is based on the effort put into the dish and how rare its ingredients are. Woojin reflected that the highest quality dish he had ever managed to prepare was Danpa pork. No matter how much effort he put in, he could only achieve a C+ rating. At last, Woojin arrived home, where he was welcomed by his mother and younger brother. Shortly after, Woojin's mother offered him food, and they all gathered for a meal. The spirit girl also ate. Honestly, she commented, "The flavor is weak. This kind of cooking lacks skill." She added, "The flavors are not balanced, and you prioritize precise measurements too much." Woojin's mother asked, "Do you miss eating my homemade food after being away for so long?" He replied, "I do." Feeling embarrassed, the spirit girl admitted a mother's love-filled cooking is the best. Woojin's mother then asked, "How are you doing in school?" After finishing the meal, they continued their conversation. They expressed their gratitude, and Woojin told his mother to rest. He would prepare dinner. Woojin then told his younger brother that he had created and refined a new dish while at the academy. Hearing this, his brother broke into a cold sweat. "I'd rather go to hell than eat it," he said. Their mother praised Woojin for his cooking, but informed them that she had a doctor's appointment, so they would have to eat dinner without her. "It's just a routine checkup," she assured them. "Don't worry." While Woojin's brother desperately begged her to stay, she left the house, saying it was getting late and bidding them farewell. Woojin said, "I should start preparing dinner," but his brother insisted that he leave the job to him. "You're always thinking about food," his brother criticized. "We just ate. Can't you take a break and talk for once?" He added that Woojin's obsession with cooking had made him lose the warmth he once had. Shano observed that Woojin hadn't been this way before. He wondered if it was an effect of his awakening, but quickly dismissed the idea. Then he remembered that Woojin might have been influenced by their mother. He had always loved cooking since childhood. The day Woojin awakened, everything changed completely, Sono reflected. He compared Woojin's passion for cooking to his own desire to become a hunter and wondered if Woojin was using cooking as a way to cope with their father's death. Shano approached Woojin and mentioned that he had seen on the news that Woojin had become a disciple of Chiak. "What's going on?" he asked. Woojin responded in a way that suggested the news was false, leading Shano to assume that the information about his participation in the hunter tournament was also a lie. But then Woojin clarified that this specific detail was true. "I made a promise to someone," he said. This only made Shano even more curious, but Woojin remained silent. Shano grew furious at being ignored and wondered if Woojin acted like this at the academy, recalling the rumors about his strange meals. With confidence, Woojin declared, "Many people enjoy my cooking," which left Shano in shock. He found it impossible to believe. As he cooked a new dish, Woojin told Shano, "You should see it for yourself. You'll understand once you taste the meal." Terrified, Shano nervously asked, "What kind of meat are you preparing?" Woojin replied, "It's kochi fermented steak." After that, Woojin began cooking the steak with incredible style and precision. Once the dish was ready, Shano dreaded the smell, but knew he had to at least take one bite to avoid Woojin's complaints. However, the moment he put a piece in his mouth, he felt utterly defeated by its taste. Woojin reflected that he would have liked to use the hammer to prepare the meal, but it would be complicated to explain the hammer's origin to Shino. Furious, Shimino asked, "What the hell did Woojin put in the food?" He assumed that after becoming a hunter, Woojin started using dungeon items in cooking. Then Woojin said, "You're asking the obvious," which completely broke Shimino mentally. Suddenly, their mother arrived, saying, "I could hear Shino's voice from every floor," and added that he was still immature. But Shano noticed that his mother seemed more serious than usual and asked, "Did you receive bad news at your checkup?" She replied, "It's nothing serious," but her pulse was tense. "I'll have to close the restaurant and rest for a few days." Shano agreed and told his mother she should rest since she had been working for years without a break. However, she seemed apprehensive. "I have many regular customers," she said. Suddenly, Wooden chimed in, "There's no need to worry. I'll take care of the restaurant." Wooden's mother looks happy with the decision while Shano is in complete shock. In front of the restaurant, Sano asks, "Do you remember the promise you made to our mother to watch over the restaurant but never enter the kitchen?" Wood reflects Xianho's cooking resembles our mother's, which he finds unfortunate. Shano realizes, "It's been a long time since I last helped at our mother's restaurant." He then asks Woojin to prepare the ingredients while he does the cleaning. And so, the two begin their respective tasks. Woojin chops ingredients while Sino cleans the place. Suddenly, their uncles arrive at the restaurant and ask about their mother. Siona replies, "We're taking care of things while she recovers from her condition." Orders start coming in, and Woojin writes down what customers want while Shano handles the cooking. After serving all the customers, Ho is already exhausted. "Will we have any time before dinner?" he asks. Woojin believes we will. Shano reflects on how exhausting it is to run a restaurant and wonders how their mother manages it. Since he's earning well, he feels that he won't have to manage the restaurant in the future. But suddenly, Seo feels something strange in his stomach and tells Woojin that he needs to go to the bathroom, begging him not to touch the kitchen. Once again, as he leaves, Shiano reinforces that Woojin should stay away from the kitchen. Meanwhile, the guild leader Lai Zhong-gil, called Orang, walks while saying, "I didn't expect Dajan to die in such a manner. Now I'll have to fill his position." He pauses, adding, "I was shocked when I saw the auction footage. The indestructible Dajan disappeared in an instant." Orion complains that his whole body aches, especially his back. "When I was young, it didn't bother me," he mutters, "but now it's caught up to me." Nevertheless, he knows he must continue his routine. He's gotten used to visiting nearby restaurants since his previous one was destroyed in the gate incident. Upon entering Woojin's restaurant, he notices that the interior is old but well maintained. Observing that it's one of those classic places with good food, he takes it all in. Woojin greets him normally, but Orion reflects that the restaurant owner is younger than he expected. Perhaps the food won't be as good, he thinks. Thus, he decides to order something simple. After placing his order, Woojin says nothing, merely staring at the customer before walking away. Making Yoran question the service, the spirit girl sees this as an opportunity to showcase the chef's skills. But Woojin, despite his promise not to cook, feels it would be wrong to keep a customer waiting. So he decides to start cooking, reflecting that serving food to a waiting customer is the most important thing in becoming a chef. Woojin struggles between maintaining the restaurant's traditional flavors or making the best dish he can, but he can't resist and ends up mixing dungeon ingredients into the food, resulting in an A-rank dish. He enhances the flavor using cacting and fennel seeds, then adds lemon juice for freshness. Woojin explains that he coated the meat with viscous fluids that melt when heated, creating a complex flavor. After that, he serves the dish to Orang, reflecting that he broke his promise and will have to apologize to Shano later. As Orang tastes the dish, he realizes something is off. He points out that the meat is extremely dense and bitter. He reflects that if the ingredients were spoiled, it would smell bad, but that isn't the case. It actually smells quite good. Orang feels extremely uncomfortable eating it and wonders what has been done to the food. As he expresses his dissatisfaction, a status screen appears before him, notifying that consuming the dish has increased his health by 3 for the next 24 hours. Orang was surprised to discover that the food contained dungeon energy, increasing his health. More importantly, his back pain had improved. Meanwhile, Cianello had finally come out of the bathroom, feeling relieved when he noticed that a customer was in the restaurant. He became furious upon realizing that Woojin had served the customer his cooking. Then he suddenly recognized that the customer was Orang, the leader of the Jongyil Guild. Shauna tried to explain the dish that had just been served, but he noticed that Orang was smiling. Orang approached Woojin and introduced himself as the guild leader. He said he would be direct. "I want to hire Woojin as the guild's exclusive chef," he stated. "I'll purchase the restaurant and promise to treat you well." Hearing this, Shano was left speechless, while Lang reflected that he had never heard of food that granted buffs. He thought that the Cheon 8 Guild must not find out about this, so he decided to act before they could discover Woojin. But first, he needed to check whether the restaurant was a special place, or if the true key was Woojin himself. Woojin liked the offer, but he wanted to share his food with more people. The spirit girl lamented that someone had finally recognized his value. Woojin mentioned that the restaurant belonged to his mother, so it wasn't his decision to make. Besides, he needed to focus on his main mission. He reflected that the mission required a B-rated dish, and the spirit girl had mentioned that the rating was also related to the rarity of the ingredients. In the classroom, the professor stated that it had been 2 weeks since the students enrolled in the academy and that they should have already adapted to the environment. He then announced that they would have an exam on August 20, reassuring them that, as it was the first test, it wouldn't be too difficult. He explained that the evaluation would consist of 10% written test, 30% mana manipulation, and 60% hunting an E-rank monster. He added that the monster hunt would involve 3 delusions created by magic, easing the students' concerns. A stir spread among the students regarding the E-rank monster hunting exam. After all, the only one who had done such a thing before was Woojin. Woojin was reflecting that, to achieve high-quality dishes, he would need to take his time preparing them. When Bagseal approached him to talk, she asked, "How are your exam preparations going?" She suggested that they seek Cheed's help for mana manipulation and monster hunting. Then, feeling embarrassed, M hesitated before asking, "Is Woon free over the weekend?" He invited him to study together. Woon thought about how he wanted to return her kindness, but ultimately said, "I already have plans for the weekend. I want to focus solely on cooking." Baek understood and instead invited him to have lunch together that day. Woon expressed gratitude, appreciating that she enjoyed his food, while the other students listened in shock. The professor then stated, "In our previous training, we used holograms, but it became clear that the students' awareness of traps was severely lacking. As a result, he had decided to take drastic measures." He explained that traps were common in dungeons, but there was something even more typical in traps. Then he announced, the students will now study poisons by consuming poisonous herbs directly. His goal was to improve the students' awareness of poisons, which would, in turn, enhance their awareness of traps as well. The students were hesitant about eating poisonous herbs, thinking that an entire lesson dedicated to it was unnecessary. The professor explained that these were herbs found in low-level dungeons, and in survival situations, they could be consumed because they were not highly toxic. He added that after ingestion, they would experience swelling in their tongues and fingers with symptoms lasting between 3 to 5 minutes. One of the students questioned the professor, pointing out that even if the symptoms were mild, it was still poison. In severe cases, it could be lethal. The professor, containing a serious expression, told him to continue speaking. The student then concluded that everyone already knew about poisons and that the lesson was a waste of time. With disdain, the professor retorted, "This same student triggered 11 traps during the last test, and he wasn't the only one. The majority of you triggered at least 10 traps." He then asked, "Do you truly believe what you're saying? If this had been real, you'd all be dead." Already exhausted, the professor asked, "Any more objections?" Since no one spoke up, he continued the lesson. Seeing John chewed on one of the herbs, remarked that he had once gone through difficulties after eating it unknowingly. Bakeseal also tried one, saying that despite being poisonous, it had no real taste. It was just like chewing on grass. Woojin, while eating Arcus saffron, noted that it had a pleasant aroma and could be useful in recipes. He reflected that he had planned to search for new dungeon ingredients but kept postponing it due to unexpected events. Suddenly, Woojin asked the professor if he could take some Arcus saffron with him. The professor refused, saying that it was against academy rules. Seeing Woojin's disappointed expression, the professor wondered how he even managed to pass through the tower. But then, Woojin's system suddenly informed him which dungeons contained Arcus saffron. It felt as if the system was reading his mind. Woojin looked for an E-rank dungeon and eventually found one in the tropical forest, the same place where he once captured a golden frog. Inside the dungeon, Chip remarked that after a tough week, now came a golden weekend. He wondered why he was even there when he had other plans. Chop reflected that Woojin always dragged him to different places and questioned whether Woojin had nothing better to do on the weekend. Then he notices that Woojin has been collecting saffron since they arrived, but Chop remembers that if prepared properly, it could be used as an analysis. However, Chuck is annoyed because Woojin is the only one collecting it, and he fears that Woojin will use it in one of his crazy recipes. He remains very confused about the whole situation and worries that another boss might appear, leading to Woojin taking all the credit once again. But this could also work to Chivik's advantage, as it might make the public forget about the case of a mysterious Lancer. Still, he can't shake the feeling that something is off. Chick fears that he might have to eat Woojin's cooking once again. Baek, who is also present, reflects that Chick seems to be trying to stay close to her because she is Du Jang's daughter, but it seems like he is actually more interested in Woojin. So she concludes that Chick must have truly accepted Woojin as his disciple, even though the rumors about him aren't particularly widespread. She notes that the articles make it seem like Chick genuinely cares about Woojin, so everything seems fine until she is suddenly ambushed by a giant frog. She delivers a precise strike to the frog, but something is wrong. Suddenly, the frog is swallowed by a monster lurking behind her. Then Chiak appears and swiftly defeats the monster, telling Seal Ha that she needs to focus on her rhythm and swing her sword more. Beck thanks Chi Guk for his guidance, and he adds that she should take a moment to recover her breath. Woojin observes carefully and reflects that Baek lacks conviction. He sees hesitation in her sword because she lacks self-confidence. He asserts that this cannot be fixed with words or advice. Once she gains confidence, her talent will allow her to surpass her current limits. Woojin decides to simply observe her while Cheok wonders how much longer they will stay there, feeling that a boss could appear at any moment. Chi-guk also dreads the fact that Woojin will probably cook again that day, but if it increases his stats, he is willing to endure it. He reflects that he has never heard of someone increasing your stats through food, and if Woojin actually has a unique skill that allows this, it would be incredible. Looking at it from that perspective, he thinks he might be able to tolerate it. But then he remembers his past meals and immediately rejects the idea. Chi-guk reflects on Woojin's obsession with cooking. But when he looks at him, he sees that he is drinking poison and quickly warns him not to do so directly. Woon is surprised and exclaims it actually tastes really good. Then his system notifies him that he has successfully extracted snake venom. Chip realizes that he was completely wrong to expect good food from someone who is casually drinking snake venom. Excited by the taste, Woojin says this venom is incredible, describing it as having a salty and lingering flavor, totally different from killer bee venom. From that moment, Woojin already has his next dish in mind, and he is certain it will be B rank. So he decides to leave the dungeon. Beck and Chigak are shocked by Woojin's sudden decision to lead and wonder if he won't cook right there. Sayala becomes anxious and asks, how long will it take for the dish to be ready? Wing replies, I'll finish it by the next night and we'll call you then. Chuck, still confused about Woojin's premature exit from the dungeon, laments that he will have to meet him again the next evening, only to realize that he will be spending the whole weekend with him. On the night of the dinner, they gather at the Academy's cafeteria. Chuck wonders if he should leave as soon as possible, because the meal looks strange in every way. Bakesiel asks if Chiak is excited about the meal too, which makes him question if she is even normal. Chip realized that Woojin had entered the dungeon just to collect saffron for his dish. He noticed that there were others in the same situation as him, merely waiting for the cruel fate of eating Woojin's cooking. Lake started eating in Chiak upon noticing that she enjoyed Woojin's latest dish, questioned her stomach's resilience before asking for her opinion. She responded, it's delicious. The noodles give off a tingling sensation. This made Chiak hesitate to try the dish. However, motivated by the potential status boost, Chiak was willing to eat it. He convinced himself that many dishes had an unpleasant smell, but still tasted good. But as soon as he put it in his mouth, it felt as if his entire body had been struck by lightning. He said that each sip of the broth felt like a bolt of lightning hitting his tongue, comparing the experience to torture. Curious, Bake asked how Woojin had prepared the dish. Woojin replied, I was inspired by the Japanese noodle dish Tannen. To balance the acidity of the noodles, I added saffron and various spices. To enhance the texture, Woojin added ground wild boar meat. Bake nodded in agreement, saying she could almost taste the sparks in the dish. Woojin explained that he had refined snake extract to create a salty depth of flavor. He was surprised that others were genuinely interested in his cooking, adding that enjoying a dish was about appreciating the layers of mystery behind it. Chip was astonished to see how casually Woojin and Bake treated the entire experience. He even commented that they made an unexpectedly good team. But what bothered Chig-guk most was that, in order to receive a status boost, he had to finish the entire serving, regardless of how it tasted. So, determined, he decided to eat it all in one go, trying his best to ignore the flavor. After finishing the dish, he announced that he'd endured the whole thing for the sake of a status increase, comparing the sensation to surviving a jolt of electricity. However, something felt off. Seconds ticked by, and the status window didn't appear. That's when he realized with frustration that everything had played out just like at the last time. Woojin glanced over and noticed that Chig-guk had cleaned his plate, while Bake, seated nearby, politely thanked him for the meal, calling it delicious. Meanwhile, Chig-guk sat there in dismay, lamenting the fact that no status boost had come. It was then revealed that only dishes graded A or higher were capable of granting status enhancements. After this, Woon completed his first main mission, unlocking Mission 2, which involved gathering ingredients from the depths of a submerged cave. Woojin regretted that, even after refining snake venom and spending his entire day preparing the dish and peppers, he still couldn't reach an A rating. The spirit girl agreed that it was unfortunate. He should have achieved an A rating by adding the dungeon peppers. White reflected that the pepper clashed with the saffron's flavor, diminishing the taste of the noodles. Though the dungeon peppers still intrigued him, he concluded that he didn't yet fully understand the pepper's power. Using it in this way felt like an insult to his pride, which was why he hadn't added it to the noodles. One decided not to use the dungeon pepper until he fully understood it, believing that relying on it would make the dish feel less like his own. The spirit girl said she didn't doubt the chef's skills, but the pepper was an ingredient made from the rarest materials, and understanding it would take a long time. Regardless, Woojin said he had time to figure it out and would learn through trial and error. Woojin checked his main mission, acknowledging that ingredient gathering was essential for a chef, and noticed that the ward was a fermentation storage unit. The spirit girl warned Woojin that this wasn't an ordinary fermentation storage. It worked even while inside his inventory. She explained that he no longer needed a physical location for fermentation, as the storage would automatically adjust the temperature and humidity of the ingredients. Woojin was thrilled to realize that items in his inventory would maintain their original size and could now be fermented there. He decided to head out immediately. Suddenly, Chiguk appeared, asking if Woojin understood the meaning of rest, as he had been calling them out for 3 days in a row. Chuck realized that they hadn't found the final boss, and that the last dish had only made him spend an entire day in the bathroom. He wished he could just take a break. He recalled that his master had postponed the conversation about taking in a disciple, and for now had ordered him to use Woojin as a distraction from the auction incident. Chi-Guk understood that his master was referring to the masked lancer, yet he couldn't understand why people believed it was him. Upon reviewing the CCTV footage, Chiuk was shocked. The lancer's movements were eerily similar to his own, so he remained silent. Chi-Guk concluded that his master genuinely didn't know who the masked lancer was. But even he couldn't think of anyone else capable of using those spear techniques. Sighing, Chip realizes that he has no choice, and that even he thought he might be involved. In an attempt to delay the meeting, Chuk asked back if she is tired, stating that excessive effort is harmful to one's health. She replies that she is fine. He becomes furious at her response, but does not let it show, merely suggesting that they should proceed to the cave Weijan had mentioned. Chuck reflects that he is part of an abnormal team with exotic tastes, and that he has only endured so far. Thanks to the status rewards, Sheep recalls that last time the experience was even worse than the food, and believes that with so many people in the submerged cave, there is no chance of a hidden boss appearing. Thus, he decides to focus solely on improving his image. While Wooden tells them to move out, a group is shown battling the long-legged crab at the bottom of the sea. This group is struggling due to a lack of healing while under pressure from the crab, until it is suddenly sliced in half, announcing the arrival of Wayne and his group. A man apologizes for losing aggro, but Chiuk calmly responds that there was no way to avoid the attack. Chiuk has received apologies from lower-ranked hunters before, but this time something feels off. Everyone's surprised, the knight suddenly asks Chiuk for an autograph. With this, Chiuk realizes that his reputation has skyrocketed. He replies, "I don't have any paper with me, but I'll remember next time." The hunters discuss the possibility of a boss appearing, but they believe that if one were to show up, it would have already been discovered. However, they trust that if a boss does appear, Kimchi Guk will know how to handle it. They are surprised to see Baek and Che's discipline and express jealousy toward Woojun, as he seems to be treated very well. Woojun, uninterested in the others, simply reflects on his next dish and how he will cook it to perfection. Chick is pleased to be recognized by the clan and to have improved his image, but he feels uneasy because it's all thanks to Woojun. He fears that Woojun might suddenly change his mind and reveal to everyone that he was the one who defeated all the hidden bosses. Imagining how his life would be ruined in an instant, and how he would be expelled from the clan immediately, she panics. He thinks that if he were stronger than Woojin, everything would be resolved, but for that he would need his clan leader's secret technique, the Galactic Meteor Spear. Thus, he decides to continue cooperating with Wan, but that also means continuing to endure Woojin's terrible cooking without being able to speak the truth. Suddenly, Wood and Baek, who were leading the way, stop walking. This prompts Chick to ask if something is wrong. Baek is also unaware of the situation, saying that Woojun just stopped abruptly while Wooden silently observes some rocks. On those rocks, his system displays a warning indicating that the dungeon is just ahead. Woojun assumes that the boss's location is recorded in the dungeon log and concludes that the entrance must be within the rocks. He notices that the entrance is covered by a magical barrier, his first time encountering one. Fascinated, Woojun remarks, although the nature of the barrier is different, it is similar to illusions and formations. He considers using brute force to break through the barrier, but realizes there is a risk of missing the boss encounter. Now determined, he decides to analyze the barrier first, confirming his suspicion that the barrier has a thin structure. It is as complex as a formation, but more refined, he states. With surgical precision, he pinches part of the barrier between his fingers, commenting that a single flaw could easily bring the whole thing down. And as soon as Wooden reveals the entrance to the dungeon, everyone is astonished. Chi-Guk is shocked, believing that the portal appeared out of nowhere. He reflects that simply standing still couldn't have been the trigger to unlock it. William rushes in, entering the portal while the others shout for him to wait. They have no idea what could be on the other side. Chiuk and Baek run to follow Woojun, but the moment they attempt to pass through the portal, they are forcefully pushed back. A notification appears revealing that the number of people allowed in the dungeon has already been exceeded. Chiuk wonders who else could have entered until he realizes that only Woojun has gone in. Inside the dungeon, Woojin is fascinated by the environment. He notices that, despite being unmistakably underwater, he can breathe normally, and he remarks that moving here feels the same as moving on land. Wei realizes that this is his first time seeing the ocean. In his past life, he had only ever been in the mountains, observing his surroundings, seeing the countless fish and marine creatures. Wei remarked that it was like a painting, mysterious and beautiful. He wondered where Bake and Chig got were, as they had not yet entered. The spirit girl suggested that they might be tired since they had mentioned it before. Woojin remembered that it had only been 2 days since the last dungeon, so they were probably exhausted. To make up for it, he planned to do his best with his next dish. The spirit girl was fascinated by the underwater scenery, saying that the landscape and fish were extraordinary. Woojin found scorpius seaweed, which could be used as armor, and arachnia shells, which provided temporary fire resistance. Surprised, Woojin noted that there was an abundance of seafood that could be used as ingredients, but there was no sign of his target, the Limitless Fisher. Afterward, Woojin used a spell that allowed him to see miles ahead, and soon he located his target. Woojin stated that within 10 miles, he could sense a familiar energy, so he decided to head in that direction. But suddenly, a figure appeared, attacking Woojin directly and demanding to know who he was. Observing the man's movements, Woojin noted that he was able to conceal himself without using advanced techniques, tech that made him extremely skilled. Woojin hesitated to recognize another hunter, but soon thought of Jo Seong-jun, who appeared determined and ready to act. Shocked, Seong-jun questioned, "What are you doing here?" Woojin apologized for startling him, explaining that he had lost his way. Seong-jun was incredulous at the idea that someone could get lost in a hidden dungeon, especially someone like Woojin. Thus, he concluded that Woojin was also searching for the Jewel of the Sea just like him. He explained, "To break the scroll I stole from the auction, I need the Jewel of the Sea." Earlier, he had reflected that in order to use the Jewel of the Sea without side effects, he would need to create a spirit stone. He was preparing to consume something for that purpose. Seong-jun had even used an artifact to change his appearance, but had not expected to run into Woojin there. He then concluded that it was better to meet Woojin like this rather than as Seong-jun, and remarked, "It's unfortunate that this young man has lost his way." Seong-jun was trying his best to remain calm, as he couldn't let Woojin escape like last time in the Slime King's dungeon. He recalled that the Limitless Fisher roamed an area of 500 meters as its territory, so encountering it was inevitable. The sect known as Eclipse had already come searching for the Limitless Fisher, but had failed to get too close to its domain. Seong-jun noted that the dungeon remained untouched, so he concluded that Eclipse must have perished there. He was worried about Woojin, as with his abilities he could easily capture the Limitless Fisher. Therefore, he wondered how he could lure the Limitless Fisher. And at that moment, Woojin said he would continue on his way. They parted ways, and Seong-jun noticed that Woojin was heading directly into the Limitless Fisher's territory, exclaiming that things were turning out easier than expected. Cyan affirmed that Woojin would encounter the Fisher soon, but suddenly a warning appeared, stating that someone had entered the fish's territory. Woojin sensed an aura that rivaled that of a divine creature. He decided to observe, thinking it might be interesting, but then the same warning appeared for him. Before he could react, Woojin found himself face to face with the Limitless Fisher, a B-rank boss. Woojin was utterly shocked, having never seen a fish of that size before, and remarked that it truly lived up to its name. He noticed pieces of clothing caught in the fish's teeth, leading him to assume that those who had been there before had fought the fish and lost. The spirit girl was excited at the sight of the fish's spines, saying that they were a true delicacy. Woojin commented, "I thought you were more reserved," but she declared, "I love seafood." After that, Woojin asked, "What kinds of dishes do you like?" She quickly responded, "Anything you make." Undecided on his next dish, Woojin said sushi or sashimi would work well, but I can't forget about steamed dishes either. Suddenly, the massive fish became enraged and charged to attack. Woojin felt an astonishing aura, but dodged effortlessly. He reflected that the aura was weaker compared to others from his past encounters, but he could sense the same corrupted energy from the auction. Then Woojin realized that the aura only came from the fish's mouth. He concluded that members of Eclipse had been devoured by it. Woojin understood that not even Cheon, a high-level hunter, knew about them. They had hidden their identities while killing for power. The fish fired lightning from its mouth, while Woojin, furious, condemned the cult as disgusting and lamented that its victims would never get to taste good fruit again. While dodging the attacks, Woojin thinks that he underestimated them at the auction. If he encounters them again in the future, he will show no mercy. Suddenly, Woojin counterattacks using his modified spiral spear along with the celestial net, slicing the fish into several pieces. Afterward, he realizes that the power of the celestial net is weaker than he expected. He decides that he will refine it in the future. Just when they thought everything was fine, a massive earthquake begins. Woojin panics, saying that earthquakes usually don't happen after defeating a dungeon boss. He quickly begins preparing a large-scale spell, generating waves throughout the area. The spirit girl is completely confused by the situation, while Woojin observes that the fish's energy is dissipating, preventing the earthquake from stopping. After defeating the monster, Woojin examines the item left behind and reflects that this is a natural occurrence in this world. But when monsters turn into items, he usually doesn't sense this kind of energy, leading him to suspect that something is interfering. However, Woojin doesn't know who or what is behind it. At that moment, Woojin grows curious about his new item's transformation ability and decides to test it immediately. But before he can, the system informs him that a request for dialogue has been received. As soon as Woojin accepts it, a white portal appears before him. The spirit girl is shocked by its sudden appearance, saying that she has never seen anything like it in her entire life. The system states that only authorized individuals can enter the portal, and that once they do, the fish's core will be consumed. Woojin notices that the ominous energy vanishes the moment the portal appears. The spirit girl warns him that he shouldn't enter, as she has no knowledge of what it could be. She adds that the unknown is the most dangerous element in a dungeon, but Woojin ignores her and declares that he will go in. However, just as Woojin is about to enter, the spirit girl is forcefully repelled from the portal. Woojin then tells her to wait, as he already knew that only authorized individuals could enter.